throw a carabiner without hitting the timer. If you want to have a great approach, you are simply throw a carabiner without hitting the timer.
You're listening to Guide to Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Buy things at here websites.com.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. And I'm just opening up some software here on my end, because lately no one's been showing up and it's been boring. And I'm going to do something. So let's see, whatever, I don't care. I that to all and don't care to any of them, and then I'll open this up. So we'll see if anybody shows up tonight. We go live every night to talk about guns, not talk about the news, not shake our fists at the sky, not reiterate, regurgitate, or be redundant. So I'll quit saying all that. So if you want to chat about guns in a cool, awesome way, then in a real way, there's a link. You can join in. We use this shitty program from Canada called the Duck. They call it StreamYard. I call it El Pato. And I guess I'm not screen sharing yet. Now I'm screen sharing. The reason I like this thing is because I can do this. As soon as Night Strike sets that up over on GunTube, I'll never use the Duck again. Don't feel sorry for her. I thought she had allergies, and now I discover that she just goes out there and sniffs ants really hard. She probably got ants in her nose. What kind of dog sniffs an ant that hard? Anyhow, so now she's over here freaking out. She's got ants in her nose. So yeah, we just opened up some software over here and just did the 7th draft of the 50 States of 2A book. Printed out on black and white. I was really hoping to print it out on color today, but my color printer took a shit, I guess. I couldn't get it to connect to my computer. So I quit trying. I just printed out black and white again. And one of the things that's different about a book than like a website or a video or digital content is when you hold it in your hand and you flip through it, there's an experience to it and a rhythm or something. So for example, like the pages it opens up to, if you're paying attention, you'd make your book open up to something awesome, right? Mine opens up to Nebraska and Nevada. Luckily, both Nebraska and Nevada are kicking ass. So it's not the perfect spread or whatever you call it when you open up a book, but it ain't half bad. They're both holding their own. So anyway, I'm thumbing through here, and I just came up with another idea. That wasn't so much given to me by anybody, but I seen somebody and it reminded me of something I forgot to put in here. So I'm going to put that here. And then I'm just thumbing through it, print it out, and then I bought that fancy stapler. So it's no problem at all now to staple. It's crazy how good that stapler works. It immediately makes it into a book like a professional. And then I have to razor blade it, which is not like a professional, and I don't fold it very good, but it gets the job done. So now I'm sitting here flipping through it. I also do it with a pretty heavy paper. I think it's a 24-pound paper, which is like, I don't know, it's thick enough so that you don't see through it. Right? There's something solid printed on the other side, it doesn't leak through to the other side. So that makes it pretty, pretty stiff, I guess. It's a pretty thick book this way, which I guess makes it feel more substantial. That's good. Anyway, I got a couple of things now that I'm kind of figuring out in my head where I can smush some things around and shuffle some stuff. It's interesting, too, when you go through and look at it, you're like, dang it, why didn't I do it this way? Because it becomes obvious for some reason when you hold it in your hand versus having it on the screen. So anyhow, this is extremely boring, and there's only 3 people out there, so I guess we'll end it. Damn, the show's boring as hell. Or I'm getting quirked. It's easier playing with other people. It's always a good idea playing with other people. So we got DTP showed up tonight, Stephen Powers, both of them left. Now there's 3 weirdos out there that aren't making any noises over here, that are just watching, creeping. It's like, you're living your life and somebody's staring in the window. For whatever reason, I don't know, I guess I put a sign out there that said come over. But then I didn't open the door, but I did open the door. Here's the link right here. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna start working. What's I'm gonna do? Something in mind. There we showed up again. That's always distracting. Yesterday I was playing music at a different speed. I don't think I'm gonna do that anymore. Oh, now it's only down to me and some other audio. So somebody's watching that shit show. I'm not participating. Let's see. Down to just a few organizations to add in there. Yeah, so I guess that's your thing. What was I going to do? I had something in mind that I needed to add out of Illustrator. Too many pieces, I guess. Trying to keep shape. Or balls juggling. It's like balls in a pinball machine, I think that's all it is. They're up there, they're coming back. But you got other balls that are bouncing around right now. I think it was New Jersey. New Jersey's the one that's looking a little weak. It doesn't need to. So that's what I'm looking at. So this is Seagirt, New Jersey, where the NRA went after Craig Creedmoor. So long distance, and it shot out into the ocean or something. It's on the shore, so let's find out what this place was. It's a decent map and not have to look at this horrible, 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 horrible map that Apple makes, that duck browser uses. Moving over to, where's this place? New Jersey. And we'll type in Seagirt. Kirk. So, I don't know that happened. It's supposed to be Seagirt. This must be it right here. So, I don't know nothing about New Jersey. It looks like it's on the north end of New Jersey. No, wait, New Jersey goes in over here. So, it's in the middle of New Jersey. What are you going over tonight? I was getting kid to bed. I'm not really going over anything. I just have a interest in having a conversation, so I go live every night, but there's no agenda or anything. So I'm just looking at where this place was. It was pretty close to New York, I guess. Close to Philadelphia. So I think I was Port Jervis. I was at Port Jervis, and I went to Philadelphia in a half a day or a day. When was that? I drove along here, going down here. I think I went all the way here in one day, but I drove over here to hang out with what's his face for a minute, and then I looked at the Liberty Bell. Tried to look at the Liberty Bell. There was some sort of street fair happening in Philadelphia, so I couldn't do shit. Everything was closed, and they roadblocked all the roads, and my GPS didn't know that, so it was taking me out. Yeah. So now I'm looking for this thing called Seeker, which was some sort of rifle range for the NRA. I would say probably this National Guard Militia Museum. National competitions and stuff were held here, so I'll bet you this is where it is. National Guard Militia Museum. What's this all about? What the hell? As long as I clicked on the thing for the thing. Come on. Give me. Alright, quit. Go back over here. Click on National Guard Museum. Open this in a new window. But have you been in here before? Have you been in here before?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. No, I'm not. This is the first time.
No, right on.
You know me on Instagram, Dex Powers.
Oh, okay, cool. Have you been in here before?
Nope.
Yeah, so I'm just, like I was saying, going through the book, looking at it, and it's sort of missing something in New Jersey, or there's blank page stuff. There's blank page on New Jersey. So after the NRA was built, then they made a range in New York called Creedmoor, and that's when we won a shooting match against the Scottish or somebody. Somebody in Europe was so good.
Yeah,
And then we beat them.
I had heard. I think you're Scottish or the Irish. I think that's correct. I had heard that before. I don't know anything about it, but I heard that they beat that team and they were really a badass team.
Yeah, and then we showed them we got something, and then we shot at Creedmoor for a while. Then we moved to Seagirt, and then after Seagirt, we went to Camp Perry, and that's where we're at today. So this was just a temporary. I think it was like maybe 8 years or something. It wasn't very long, but I need to have something in New Jersey, and this is a thing, and I'm trying to figure out what it looks like, because the only thing I've ever seen is this picture mostly, which I guess I could do. But I guess I could, because then it's got some guns and shit. Otherwise, I'll see pictures like this, because I'm guessing it was mainly a big field, and there was nothing to look at, because all the pictures are mostly people standing there or shooting. Or pictures like this where they just show you targets, and that's boring, so I don't really want to make.
Yeah, I don't think they had too many zoom lenses back then, anyways. So.
Yeah, but sometimes they'd have like a building or like the clubhouse or whatever.
Oh yeah, with all the trophies and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm thinking because they were only there for so long, maybe they had tents or some shit. But even then, you would think you'd see them in like, they made drawings or stuff like this. I don't know if this is a painting. It's probably like a pencil drawing and then later colored or something. So, but there, see all these tents. So that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Maybe they had some building here back there, and then it turned into, well, I don't know. So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Those tents look like the same ones you see in the World War I pictures.
Yeah, all the time where, because everything was meant to be temporary because they weren't going to do this shit in the winter, right? So why bother building a house?
Right.
Damn, I got a mosquito here that keeps buzzing me. I just hold this in my hand. So anyway, I went over on the map and started looking to see where it is, and that's where it is. It's not that far from New York, right? It's at this top part where it bends into that inland. But then I noticed that there's this Seagirt National Guard base, and then on the base there's a museum, and this is the website for the museum. And I'm hoping that they'll say something here about, what it's all about.
So I just wonder. I've been to New Jersey, but I've never wondered. Do they have a museum there at all? Anything firearms related besides?
Well, I'm now finding this, and this looks like it's got some pretty cool stuff.
That's what made me think about it. I saw that picture and I was like, is that a museum?
I never heard of it. Well, here's the thing. I shouldn't say I never heard of it. Do I have the other thing open anymore?
National Guard Militia Museum.
Yeah, but this is the New Jersey National Guard. So it's just for New Jersey. But New Jersey's done stuff, and there's a ton of stuff that happened in New Jersey back in the olden days. That was gun related, I mean. But the list of trying to figure out where the hell I have a list where I can get that list from. Probably out of here, and then where did I put it? Here, and here, I think. So I took like when you go to print, except instead of printing, I just made them into JPEGs or something. So these are all the pages out of the book. This one is all the Army museums, and there's a shit ton of them. So I was getting that. So It's like, I don't even know if it's possible. There's got to be hundreds. It's like every base has a freaking museum.
I just Googled. It says Morristown National Historic Park, and it says they have Revolutionary War arms there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. I don't see it for New Jersey.
So it says you've got Fort Dix Military Museum in Fort Dix. You've got that one we just talked about, and then you got one called U.S. Army Communications Electronics Museum at Fort Monmouth. So there's 3 in New Jersey. So you're not in Texas, you're in New Jersey, or you were in New Jersey?
Me? Oh no. I've traveled through there. I live in Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri.
Okay.
I just
when I went up to that area, I didn't even go into New Jersey. So now I'm kicking myself because I didn't know Tony back then. I didn't have anywhere to go, and I didn't know their laws. I didn't want to be traveling with a gun or anything without a destination. I would. I don't. That's why I don't go in through those places, because I don't want to get pulled over and get screwed on something weird. Yeah, because you don't even know it's not like it's not like going to Mexico where you got to like pay off the federales or nothing. But even then, I wouldn't know how to do that, right? You wouldn't be doing it like a local. But mainly, you get pulled over, and it's obvious when I'm from Arizona, I'm not a local. I don't look like a New Jersey person. I don't talk like them. I don't act like them. So immediately, I'm going to get more scrutiny, right? Not like just some painter in a van who's speeding or something.
And even if for some reason you know all the laws and you have everything right, there's still a chance they're just going to arrest you. And anyways, because just let the DA figure out they want to charge you, because they're really strict on that. And I just stay away from those places.
And I'm not used to it. I'm used to police. I mean, I can count. Well, I mean, it's not like we don't get pulled over. And when we're younger, you get pulled over all the damn time. If you go south of Tucson, you're going to get pulled over, especially going south of Tucson in the middle of the night. You're going to get pulled over to see what's going on. But if you go south of Tucson in a pickup truck in the middle of the night, you're getting pulled over.
Yeah, and that's what I drive. I drive a pickup.
But, we go down there fishing or hunting or just farting around or whatever. And whenever we get pulled over, it was more like, I'm more used to a cop being like, I remember whenever my friend first started carrying or whatever. And this one time we got pulled over coming up from fishing down there. And he was taking forever and forever and forever. And then he finally comes back, and I'm like, what the hell was all that? And he's like, this guy had never seen this model Glock before, and we were bullshitting. I'm like, damn, dude, like, what the fuck? At least call me back there to bullshit with you, like make me sit here for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's the way cops are out here. At least that's what I'm more and more used to.
Yeah. I'm originally from Texas, and in my 40s. When I was a kid, I would walk to or ride my bike to where we're shooting, and the sheriff's deputies would see me going, and they would pick me up, either drive me there or just join me there to shoot with me. I don't know. I know that now that's no longer ever possible, but I remember how cool it was when you could do that. It's rare now that you just get, you're going to get scrutiny and looked at wrong when you're armed. And do they still do those checkpoints in Arizona? I down there, like last time I was down there was probably late 90s, early 2000s, and they would have these checkpoints, of course, looking for illegal aliens and all that. I don't know.
It depends. So if you figure you draw like a line at I-10, which is the highway, right?
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you don't know, there's only one highway in Arizona, and it comes from the middle of New Mexico into Arizona, and then it kind of jogs, makes like an S shape, goes up to Phoenix, and then over to California.
Right.
And then in that S, there's another road that goes south to Mexico and then goes north up into Utah through Flagstaff. And that road touches. So anyway, you figure if that road is the line, if you go south of that line, then you're suspect that you're doing something by the border because you're less than an hour from the international border. You're like, going fast, you're like 30 minutes from the border. So if somebody was doing something and they just hauled ass, that's where they figure, anywhere in there is border patrol's turf, basically.
Yeah.
So
I got to pick up. Yeah.
It kind of depends. I have no idea. Sometimes it's funding. Now, I knew people. I can't say I know people anymore in Border Patrol, but for a while there, I knew a lot of people in Border Patrol from all different angles. And Border Patrol is a huge thing. It's like saying, I know a police. Well, big deal, because knowing a police here is different than knowing a police there, and that's different than a sheriff and everything else. So there's all kinds of different Border Patrols. But anyway, the long story short is that they've got permanent ones. There's like one permanent one, and then there's like any road that goes north and south, there's probably like a semi-permanent one that is pretty much could be there anytime. And then there are places that, like, once you've lived here and experienced them all, you wouldn't know it, but like just a little pull out on the side of the road. Well, This is a patrol stop point. It's just they're not here right now. So there's been times when they shuffle around and they're doing their job. Like, you go down, and then when I'm talking like back when I used to go hunting and fishing down there, I'd be down there all the time. So I could tell when there was like they were never there. Like, for a long time, it's like you forgot there was even Border Patrol because they were just never out, day or night. They just weren't out for years. Right. And then there was times for years when they're acting like the world's going to end and they're everywhere and they're pulling everybody over. So right now, they kind of have parked and they know everybody. So they can tell because of their robots and shit. When you pull up to them nowadays, they smell your farts and they know what's in your wallet and they already know what you ate for breakfast and how many people are in the car. Like, they're looking at heat signatures and density shit.
Yeah,
So they know exactly when you pull up. They just go, "Yeah, see ya." Like, they fucking know who you are when you pull up at this point.
Yeah, I have a friend works for FBI, and she was telling me about like how much, depending who it's in, like how much, when you're approaching them, how much information they can just come up and know you and know how many people are in your car. They just, it's amazing.
And it's just, if you fall out, I drive up in an empty van. So to them, I'm like, nothing. Like, I'm a ghost. Like, there's nothing I could be doing in my big ass empty van that they could care less about, and I'm going the wrong way too. If I'm going south, they probably look at me like, what the fuck is that guy doing? Because I'm driving an empty van south, but they can't do nothing about it. They don't care. But when I drive north, like, I would think, like, I always think, I'm knocking on wood, because I always figure, why wouldn't they look at it? And I don't have windows. I have a solid white van, right? There's no windows on. Yeah. They've never looked in it, knock on wood, because they've got these robots that look at you and they can tell. My van is supposed to weigh probably, let's say, 7,000 pounds or something. And if my van weighs 7,000 pounds plus my fat ass,
Yeah.
They're like, well, you don't have 12 people in there, like right off the bat, just from weighing it, they know I don't
Yeah.
have anybody in there.
I'm sure, like when they have someone, anything suspicious, they have an aircraft already just following and looking and seeing where you turn off. It says here that they have 19,437 agents in the Border Patrol.
Well, I guess that depends. I mean, that's the whole Border Patrol?
It says agents. It doesn't count civilians, I don't think.
Well, no, but I mean, that's not like just Arizona or something.
No, that's sorry, that's the whole. Yeah, sorry, the whole Border Patrol. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think we're like, we're a chunk, but because we've got private land, or I mean, public land, I don't think they put as many in Texas, and I don't think they need as many in New Mexico because Texas reaches way over and then almost all the way over to us. So there's only like an hour worth of New Mexico that touches Mexico.
Yeah.
All the rest of it is like hiding behind Texas.
It says 3,700 agents working the 9 stations in the Tucson sector.
Okay, because I was say that sounds more like yeah, but think about that. That's 3,000 people for like it takes you. If you had nothing else to do and if you started at one end of Arizona and drove to the other side of Arizona, it would take you like 3 hours.
Right.
So it's not that long. I mean, it's rugged terrain and stuff, but there's portions of it that are a city. There's Nogales is in the middle of it. And yeah, they got to do stuff in this city, but that's a different type of border patrol. That's literally people just throwing up a ladder and jumping over the fence.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally different. And they can do that in a matter of 15 seconds.
Yeah, I've seen the videos. It looks like a rabbit running across the street, there and gone.
And like 6 people will do it, and that's just somebody who wants to go get something, or probably whatever they got in their pocket is what they're driving on. That's just somebody who has to go back and forth, and they don't feel like waiting in line. So I don't think they even care too much about that. But when they're out in the middle of the desert, you can't just run up to a fence. I mean, you got heat signature, footprints, and everything else. And I'm sure they have
seismographs. They have seismographs, and
well, for the middle of nowhere, they do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can't. I mean, yeah, it's possible to go in the middle of nowhere and jump over the border, but you're not going to be able to get to the middle of nowhere without us knowing. So, like I say, there's a lot of patrol, but they don't. I don't know. None of them are complaining.
It says they have 262 miles of border.
That's how long it is. Yeah, it's about 3 hours. And then at this point now, there's like almost a road. Like they've almost, you can't really put a road because it's just too much terrain. But like there's portions of it that when I first moved down here, like nobody bothered because it was just like when I first moved down here, the Mexican border was a fence that was so beat up that like I ran like a chicken was running back and forth across the fence and nobody cared because it was just like guess what? We're walking next to an international border. Just be careful because now you're in another country, but you're in the middle of nowhere. It's like it's just a big field in the middle of nowhere. So back in the day, I guess somebody could have run across there, but now you can't even get out there. Like somebody, like you say, they're aware that you're out there, and then they can sit up on a hill and just watch. So they can own the border anytime they want, but. You can have one guy watching the central border, but if 17 people run across, what's he going to do? Call people in, and by the time they get there, they already got to their van.
I remember in high school, one of the big things you did for spring break is we went to Mexico because, the drinking age and all that stuff like that. And
it's just fun. You could do stuff
sometimes at places that we crossed illegally because we weren't going through the border. We would go back and forth because we wanted to get liquor and all, stupid skid stuff. And there was nothing. There was no border. There was no fence. There was no line. It was just.
It was like Canada. Nobody cared. There was no line because nobody cared, right?
Right.
Nothing was happening. So.
Nobody cared, and they knew that it was a bunch of kids going down there to do that. They didn't give a fuck about that.
No, it was like up to your parents to give a crap, right?
Yeah, right. And so, and with my dad, he was like, bring some back. So,
well, that's the thing. People would go down there just to have a different, just to go whatever, not just drinking, but just to go to different restaurants or whatever. And just because now we're in Tucson, so it's like an hour away. You're in another city, another place. So people would go down there, but then it would be like, bring back vanilla. That was the main thing. Like at least for my old people, it was like bring back vanilla because you could get some sort of vanilla in Mexico that something different than the vanilla you could get here, or it was cheaper. I don't remember.
Right.
And then just garbage, like all the shit that they sell at the border, you could get
Right.
it for pennies on the dollar. So if somebody wanted to, I don't know, send somebody a thank you gift, like I would get in trouble if we went to Mexico and it didn't bring back like little pottery or little crap.
Right. Little,
Because
yeah.
you could buy that stuff for a nickel or a buck. Like you could throw $3 down and come back with like 3 little pottery things.
Right.
Give them to your grandma, and your grandma could send them to her friends back east or something.
Yeah. My
And
mom would give me a list. Said if you go down there, and she'd want the trinkets, whatever. Then I wanted to bring back fireworks because I wanted fireworks all year. Just stupid stuff like that. Again, and nobody cared. It was just,
oh, that's true. M80s and shit. You could get like better fireworks down there. I never actually looked for fireworks, so I guess I never thought of it. Nothing was stopping us, and maybe they just never threw them in front of us. Otherwise, I probably would have.
yeah, no. The only reason I speak Spanish, and so I knew people that knew place and whatever. And it wasn't a store; it was some place that just everyone got their fireworks. But that was, yeah. I mean, and again, there was no border. There was nothing there. There wasn't a sign. There wasn't a line, a fence, a marker. Nothing. It was just here's where you go, and it was well traveled. And that's how we went back and forth, just so we didn't have to wait in line at the crossing.
I've seen people in or places in Canada that's similar.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of places still are like that. Yeah.
And like I said, there's so many things you don't even think about. There's things that are just international borders are always some sort of, booze or cigarettes or like that, vanilla or just something. There's always going to be somebody that's interested in. And then drugs. The other one was drugs, like whatever the prescriptions were.
Yep.
Like let's say, whatever heart medicine or just
Yep.
whatever weird shit old people are on.
Practically dirt cheap compared to what you buy it here for.
Yeah, exactly. They would just say, here's the one that's the most expensive, like buy 2 bottles of that. And nobody ever cared at all. Like you could have a bottle of heroin and nobody cared because you were just walking back across the border. And unless you were walking back with a backpack full of it.
Yeah. No, if you went to the pharmacies there and you asked, okay, Vicodin and stuff like that, they would just put it on the counter and you pay and you walk out.
That's what I heard. I never bothered. But,
Yep. Nope. That's
I know
what it was.
I would do that for like whatever. I would just have, this list from old people, be like, here. And I don't think any of it was pain pills. It was all
Yep.
stupid shit. Usually the whatever heart crap that, like say, even their generics would cost them something.
The big
But
one.
anyway, that changed. Nobody really goes down there at all anymore that I know.
Yeah. The big ones I would bring back were the arthritis medicines for my, for either my, my grandmother when she was alive, and then one of my uncles, because it was, it wasn't generic, and the stuff cost like $100 a bottle, and I literally cost like $10 down there. And,
That's true. I do know a guy that went down there for steroids. He would go down and buy bottles of whatever kind he chewed on, like Tums, but then
right.
he would to get injections, cortisone or steroids or something. Not for muscles, but for his knees or some shit.
Right.
And so he'd go down there, get his injections, and then however long that would last, he'd have those pills and then go back down. And I forget how much, but it was he was going down from Phoenix, and it was worth taking a day or however long that took, and all that, because it's 2 hours from Phoenix each way. And, an old day shot doing it, it was worth all that compared to what it would have cost him to. Because he wasn't like
before
trying
that,
to do books. He was just doing it for way cheaper.
Right. Before the law came, I don't know how many years ago, about international pharmacy and stuff like that, there used to be bus tours that would pick up, mostly seniors would go down there all together, go to pharmacies, buy all their stuff, and drive back.
And then they'd eat lunch and shit.
Yep. It's kind of like a little tour. And they did it in Canada, too. But then that law changed. They passed it, and because the drug companies were like saying they're getting our drugs cheaper, and that ended that.
Well, it definitely is the case, but at the same time, how many people can it possibly be? Possible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they were registered. I think their biggest thing was because people were also doing it online. I think that's where they were losing. People going in person, not that many, but people online, there's probably a lot. it's kind of
Oh,
shitty.
yeah.
How long have you been in Arizona?
Since the 90s. Well,
Since
it's just a
mid-'80s?
year. No, since the 90s.
Oh, '90s. Okay. What is that?
I don't know. It's an airport, but something from the olden days.
That's pretty cool.
This is in New Jersey.
I've seen some
So
old
that's
airports. I've seen
that's
old
gotta be
airport pictures.
a circle.
Yeah, I've seen old airport pictures where they have the building in the middle and the runways. Again, it's a big old tarmac, and the airplanes would just take off outward like spokes of a tire.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool.
So I don't know if that's that, but I've seen those pictures.
Well, it looks like now it's just rain going in there, but obviously something was there and it hasn't grown since. So it's probably concrete. And like I said, it's got to be an expensive piece of property in the middle of New Jersey.
Yeah,
I didn't realize how green New Jersey is, though. It's just pretty green. So,
those are all the suburbs. So when's your what about like how long do you think before your this guide you're making is going to be out?
I don't know. It's pretty done. Where did I put that thing? I don't know if it's going to work. That's probably as big as it'll get. I don't know if you can see that much.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can see the pages.
So
I can't read them, but I can see them.
How do you flip them so that you can look at them? I think with photos it'll let me go left and right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess then. So that's the cover. Inside, table of contents. So all these are fine. Got them kind of full and then organized, arranged or whatever.
Right.
This
Layout.
is yeah, exactly. Just kind of making sure because every time I find something, I gotta like cram everything around and fit it in there. So I think I'm pretty much done. I did come up with a couple of things to look for, but I'm pretty much done cramming stuff in here. So like before, when it looked like this, I was like, that ain't a book. That's just a sketchbook. This gets more full. So this page, what am I gonna do? Indiana's low on the ball. So these pages that had nothing, like Iowa, which is just phoning it in. Iowa barely doesn't even care about our Second Amendment. I just crammed up a line like this and put other stuff in here.
Is Iowa one? Iowa always surprised me. I don't know if it's them or one of them near them that they have really bad, gun laws compared to what you think they would have. Like I don't think they even allow NFA weapons like that.
I never heard of that. That's not true, but but they've got suppressors for hunting. They don't have constitutional carry, but they have concealed carry since 2011. So they haven't had it forever, but they've had it for a while. They got open carry without a permit, and
did you say yes or no on suppressors in Iowa?
Yeah, they do, and they were the 39th. They were the 39th state, so they only got it in 16, and the states pretty much stopped doing it in like 18. So it was one of the.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking because I remember, reading about some states that just did not allow like stuff on the NFA, like the suppressors. I don't know about machine guns. I was being general about NFA and suppressors, but that's what I kind of remember. So.
Okay, because there is a difference. Like Washington State for a long time was like you can't own a full auto trigger part. So in other words, if you had a trigger off an AR-15, you couldn't put it in an AR-15. They would call the trigger a full auto gun, which was weird. So you couldn't even own like parts kits there. But then they changed that at some point. There are a couple of states though that are like that, where like you can't even
have a part
consider a part of an NFA. But Iowa's not like that. I'm just giving them shit because they just don't happen to have a lot of shit.
Right.
So anyway, I crammed like I was saying some other things into those states that didn't have a lot. But then. Anyway, so like I say, there's like 2 pages I think where I don't really have, like this. I'm missing like a quarter page here. I'll come up with something to shove in there. Otherwise, most of these are pretty much done did. I'm going to go back. Somebody like Sarah Cade, who isn't obvious to most people probably, like why she's in here. I'm going back and doing things like I did with this guy. Like nobody knows who John fucking Dingle is.
Yeah.
But he's the guy he's the Democrat in 1968 that urged the NRA to get off their fucking ass and start being political, or they were going to see no more guns in the country. A Democrat got the NRA moving a little bit.
What do you do that in response to the NFA? The
he saw the
Gun
NFA. No, this was before the NFA, if I remember right. So he was like, hey, he was a Democrat. He was like watching them come up with the bullshit. It was called like it was the Volmer, I forget what it's called. It was like a name for the stuff that became, they all got wrapped together and became the 68 Gun Control Act. Really like 8 different things that all came like in just an onslaught of punches, from what I understand. Anyway, he was seeing that happen as a Democrat and then came knocking on the NRA before they were even paying attention, from what I understand. So that's somebody like that. I put a little faded out NRA behind them, and then I'm putting like a little thing for like Rick Ector. If you don't know, like I'm putting in little descriptors, I guess. So I need to go in and do that for a couple of people. Like some people I think are obvious, but for people like, I don't know why I missed her, but like the girls that are in here that are Olympic, there's another one, like her. I stuck the Olympic thing behind them, kind of faded out.
Right.
So like, just stuff like that, so that it's a little more obvious when you're just glancing at it who some of these people are. Like Smith and Wesson. Oh, see, like
that's
now that when I look at it, I see a bunch of boxes and size lines and all these weird other things.
why all the editing stuff.
Yeah, so this is my first opportunity to look at it in color. So I'm always printing black and white. So I didn't put the cards behind Smith and Wesson. I need to do that. So that's the kind of thing. Like I got Charlie's logo behind them and Liberty's logo behind them. So I'm just making sure that all of that is consistent. Or like the books have shadows, but the logos don't. Things like that.
Yeah.
Trying to debate whether like Minnesota, which is kind of phoning it in also. I could shove everything in, like I could make those logos smaller, shove everything up, and that would give me a half a page here. And I really don't need a half a page right now, unless I need it. So I can also fill it out a little bit. Or I could go dig in and find, there's got to be something else in Minnesota, right? Like I could keep digging. Anyway, so then, and then like I was minding my business the other day, and I came across New Hampshire's state motto, live free or die. And I was like, fuck, I should put state mottos in here. And then most of the state mottos are really stupid, but a couple of them are cool. So, I added the stuff like that will come to me and I'll be like, oh shit, I'll just open that up and add that real quick.
Mississippi has a ton of museums.
No. This is Mississippi.
Okay,
Shit.
gotcha.
When it's in a book, it's a little more obvious, but because you can't really see the pages, but that's just the bottom half of the page.
I got you, yeah. I see the James one in Oklahoma. That's a cool one.
But then I felt like arranging them by number of guns. I arranged them by date, but that was cool to add number of guns because half the time when you see them, nobody talks about the good shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got a couple, like I have this piece, obviously that bottom of that page is missing, and then I need to put the little USA thing next to her. And then see like Nebraska, the fuck Nebraska. So you gotta make it a little bit bigger or shove something up. I don't know. I could probably do something with Buffalo Bill though. There's nothing in here. I don't have any Old West. I don't have any lawmen. I don't have any gamblers or any of the Indian Wars. So I might have one or two, but I could add a lot of that. But then I figured it would keep going, and some of that stuff fills out in the West. But half of them motherfuckers are from back east, and I definitely don't need like more anything in Connecticut. It's full. New York is full.
At some point, you gotta give yourself a line that you gotta just leave it at. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want big ass holes in Nebraska because nobody's paying for blank paper, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. So I just got that's what I'm doing but I think it's all coming together. Like I've been adjusting the sizes of logos and bullshit to get everything consistent, and then not necessarily consistent from page to page, but consistent on the page it's on. Let's say.
Yeah. The almanac. I got the almanac, and that I like that. That I liked. It was short, sweet, direct, and
Definitely different because the almanac you get fed, in a time factor. So like you open it up, you look at it, or like, oh, I'm going to go to that date and know that it's coming.
Right.
So definitely necessary. Like you can't. There's things that I couldn't do with this one that I could only do with the almanac. But then there's things that you can't do with the almanac that you can only do this way.
Yeah.
So I think they definitely are going to complement each other, even though some of the stuff is kind of the same. In fact, I'm going to be able to pull some of the stuff from one to the other. They're definitely going to strengthen each other. For example, like if I figure out that, I mean, I already knew, but if I figured out that, I'm trying to find one, like I guess May of 2001, whenever that date was, New Mexico got concealed carry, I'll add that to the almanac. It already is in there, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to be able to add more stuff to the almanac for sure.
Have you, just off topic for a second, I was just thinking about this. Have you heard anything about the Wanamaker show?
No, just that there's rumors that it's not, but I haven't heard anything official.
I'm just curious. I'm in Oklahoma right now, and I haven't gone to a gun show since this whole bullshit, and I'm really, really itching.
I almost went to one, but then I called up there and he said it was he said it was only gonna be half the size, but because they would only let him do it with half the amount of people or whatever, and that just didn't. It would have taken more cost and everything to drive up there and everything
to see half the people here.
Well, yeah, to experience half. It would have just been sad to see half the gun show. Oh, what's going on in here? Pants is out there. Iowa is a nice state. I guess so. I sponsored Iowa and Nebraska. Iowa is better than Nebraska. I always enjoy my time there. I used to hang out in Iowa when I was a kid by the Mississippi, but I've only ever done that, and then I drove through. I got more speeding tickets in Iowa than in Nebraska. I haven't gotten any in Nebraska. I live in a county with a pro-gun sheriff. When I went to get fingerprint cards, if that's what they were for, I said NFA. He said, awesome, look this way. Right on. Patriots out there, good evening. I grew up in Southwest Iowa. It was great growing up there. I've been in Omaha since '91. Nebraska is too tardy to the 2A party. We finally got CC. Oh, these are getting attacked by the same fucking bouncy mosquito, or there's like a mosquito that's just exploded with them or something. And they come right at my face.
Oh, I forgot. That's right. You work at night because of the heat, don't you?
No, I've been doing that, but it's only like 107, so it's not as bad.
107. Holy shit.
But it's ending. It can't be that hot forever, so it's ending.
Yeah.
So I've been flipping my schedule around. It's also been really weird. It's like there's a fire again, so there's like no sun, and at the same time there's clouds, but it's not humid. It's weird. But you're talking about Southwest Iowa. Southwest Iowa. I definitely never been there. What are you talking about? I'm missing stuff. Can't help with Nebraska. In my county, they issue CCW licenses same day. Print out the card right there. Next county over, they make you wait. In where I went to Nevada one time to get a CCW permit up there, they make you. How did it go? You could go take the class or whatever, but then you had to go to the sheriff's office. Like they couldn't submit it for you, so they made it annoying for out of state if you were out of state because you had to go to the class, but then schedule time to be there on a weekday also after the class so that you could take your diploma.
Right.
So they ran the class on like Monday. It was like a 2 or 3 day. I think we were there for like a 2-day thing on Thursday, Friday, then a 2-day thing on Saturday, Sunday, then the CCW on like Monday with a couple of people that hung over, and then did the CCW stuff on Monday so that we had all our forms and stuff. You could send in Florida. They did 11 CCWs in one sing or something like that, or I forget what it was. But you could, as much money as you had money for, you could just tell them, and they would make sure to include all the appropriate checks and balances to make sure that they covered your CCW. So, like, I was getting, I think 2 or 3. I was getting Nevada and Idaho and Utah, and like somebody else was getting like another one. So anyway, they would just kind of have modules, and if if a state needed something or something, then they would just add that module, and everybody got the module. But anyway, then whenever you were done, they could say, here you filled out all this, and all the other states you could just send in your out of state CCW stuff. Whenever you were done class, you just signed it all and sent it, and you would get your CCW in the mail. But in Nevada, you had to take your stuff in to submit it in person. And then I forget how long it was, like a month later, weeks later, you had to come back and pick it up in person. They would not send it to you. So that's how stupid it was. You had to live close enough basically to Nevada to be able to drive back or get back or be rich enough to fly back just to pick up the thing. So like we literally, I think they also would only hold it for like 30 days. So we went up there.
Especially if they know that you're out of state, they're literally just making it difficult on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So we go take the thing, we do the thing, we fill out the stuff, we drive home, and then I think 3 of us went, and 2 of us went back, and the one guy just said, like, I don't care, I can't drive all the way back there. He like literally did all the stuff, paid everything.
What a waste.
Well, because you can't, like, just not everybody can do that. And it's nice to have a second thing, but we were there anyway, and it wasn't like we went there for that. In other words, he was just like, I was at the top or whatever. He don't think he cared at all. He was just there because we weren't driving home, so he had no choice. He could have walked through the desert, but he decided to just stay and get the stuff. But anyway, he didn't feel like driving back up. But anyway, yeah, that was a pain in the butt. And literally just to drive from Tucson to Pahrump, right? So way out in the hell, because you don't want to get your CCW in Clark County. You get back then, at least, if you got your CCW in Clark County, because in Vegas or in Nevada, your CCWs are per county.
Mm-hmm.
If you get it in Clark County, then you have to have a separate card for each gun you carry.
Wait, but are the CCWs only valid in your county?
No, it's just that they each had, because that's one of the places that existed. They don't have, what's it called? They don't have state, whatever it's called, so that state laws don't override the city laws. And because it's
preemption.
Yeah, preemption. It's one of those states where all the cities existed before the state came around. All these cities have their own laws, and everybody just has to deal with it. So that's why they can have prostitution and all that stuff, is because there's laws that these people just came up with in the middle of the desert, and the rest of the world just says, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had to drive all the way back up there. So basically to walk into a park in the parking lot, walk in the one door, wait, pick it up, walk out. Like, it took me longer to talk about it than it did to walk into the fucking place and get it, and then drive 9 hours or 12 hours to get home. Stupid.
There's constitutional carry here in Oklahoma now, but before you had a license, and they still have it. You can still get the license, and that's so you have reciprocity. I can't even say it. Reciprocity. With other states that require you to have a license. When I first got my license, I did the class, put the stuff in, and like I think it was less than 7 days, I had it in the mail. So it wasn't too bad, and they mailed it to you. Of course, I live here, but it wasn't that big a deal, and it was when it first started. Now I think they're for some reason, since constitutional carry came out, now some people are waiting a month or more for theirs, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
That's weird. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably because of the county issue type of thing, because that's the same way it is in Oregon. When your parents are saying, I don't know about out of state, but in Ohio, residents have to apply in person I don't know if we issue a lot of out-of-state permits because we accept almost every other state's permit. Exactly. So if you don't, like, the only reason people got to Florida is because you could get like Minnesota and Washington off and on, depending on if you had to go to Minnesota for anything. Like, the only way to get to Minnesota with a gun was to have a Florida carry permit back in the day. I don't know what it's like now, but that was one of those things. Like, there was no point in getting a Massachusetts carry permit unless you were just collecting them, because it didn't give you any states that you didn't already have. Nevada would give you, I forget what the states were, but it would give you a chunk. So people that had like a Florida, like there was a bunch of states back east that you'd only have like 15 states reciprocity or something.
Right.
Weird. So you'd get like an Idaho and have 30, or you'd get like a Nevada and have 30, or you'd get like a Florida and an Idaho, or I mean a Utah, I say an Idaho, a Florida and a Utah. And the Florida and a Utah, I think, still covers pretty much everything. I think you can get Arizona's. I never think about Arizona's because I'm here, but Arizona's is pretty good too. And I think people get Arizona's out of state. That's another thing we got in here is one of the things I thought was neat. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is to get the Second Amendment up into people's hands, right? So that it can be in conversations like this.
Right.
So with that in mind, I thought this was a cool chart to have in there. So under Vermont, who doesn't
Oh, yeah.
do it, I stuck in the number of permits. They all kind of hover. Most of them are from 2017. Some of them were like, I think one or two were from 2016, and there might have been one from 2018. But most of these numbers are from 2017, which is like the only year that, you know, it is. You have to wait for all the numbers to come up. But if you look, like Florida has almost 2 million. One, I can't get it really good, but I guess if I open it like this, I can get it a little better. But Florida's got almost 2 million. Pennsylvania has got 1,200. Texas has 1,200. So you can tell these might be the states where, like, Florida is definitely a state where out-of-state residents get theirs. I don't know what but Pennsylvania's might be like that. I don't know. But Arizona's way the hell down here at 325. Like, we're punks.
That's a cool chart. That's a kind of cool info.
Yeah, I'm hoping this will, you know, once people have this info, it's just a whole nother like layer of insight to their conversations, right? Like, oh, let's have a real conversation. Let's look. And because, you know, it kind of makes sense too. We got constitutional carry. What's the point of having one, I guess? But, you know, that might be neat. It might be neat to, maybe I could put like an asterisk next to the states that have constitutional, just so you can compare them or relate them.
Yeah, our constitutional carry came in last year.
And we only have something like, but that's on another page. Small one. Uh, 16. But that's, again, you know, once people know that they're 16, then we know somebody wants to be 17th, right? Somebody wants to be 18th. And then once we get that ball rolling, real hard to have any kind of federal law, right? When everybody's like, oh, you have a federal law that bans this? Because we're not paying attention to that anymore.
Yeah. I always worry, like, or when someone offers, hey, we're going to have constitutional carry for like the whole United States, you know, or something like that, someone does that. And I'm thinking, you know, as easily as if they were to pass that at the, you know, the next election, someone could get rid of it, you know, and for everybody at once.
For one person, it does one horrible thing.
Yeah. And once, like in an instant, all that is gone in every state, every city, you know. Yeah, I don't. That's one of the reasons that I always worry about that. I don't know anything about politics or how that works, but I always think as easy as they can give it to you, they will take it away.
So I guess this is in order. So if you look, it's not really showing you the pages next to each other, but you can get the idea when I get to New Jersey. As I was kind of showing you before, there's like pages that have holes, like Nebraska here. I don't know what to do with Nebraska, but in New Jersey, at least, when I get to it,
There it is.
there's just not enough stuff going on. but there are more companies that I just haven't added. There are companies that like came and went back in the olden days.
I forgot Henry was in New Jersey.
And then, like I said, this Seekirk or the Schnitzen one. That's what I was looking at originally here.
Right.
Just to add something. So basically, though, that's that. And then I guess same with Nebraska. I already put this Museum of the Fur Trade. This Heartland public shooting thing is where the 4-H, the whole like national 4-H, that's where they do. I think this is the place where they do their stuff. So it's probably pretty neat because 4-H can partner around, so they probably have a nice place.
Is that like their home base for 4-H or something?
No, but it's just like if they have a Indianapolis 500, that's where they do it.
Okay,
So
I get you.
I don't know. 4-H is in here somewhere. It's just it's not on Nebraska, so I don't know where it is.
Right.
I think it just looks like 4-H though. Unless I forget. Maybe I didn't put it. We'll figure out where 4-H is, and then we'll see if we're missing. You know what J.C. Higgins is?
Oh yeah.
I'm looking for. And then. I probably have other sports. Used to be on the left, but I don't know if it's anywhere. So here it is. Oh, I don't know where it is, so maybe I don't have it on there. I don't even have a link to it. So yeah, let's go find out where my shooting sports are. Clover should know. Why is he hoarding that info? Contact us. Blah, blah, blah. Purpose, blah, blah, blah. Oh, maybe this is why. I don't really know where they are yet. Because whenever I first looked, you've got, this person lives in Maryland, this person lives here. So then you got to go figure out a little bit further. So sometimes when you go to the stupid ass Facebook shit, crap, garbage, then they'll have an address under about, but not always. And they don't. So you get there as quickly as possible. And then you go look at their terms of service. They have a terms of service? That's weird. They do not have terms of service. Because sometimes the terms of service will say like, oh, if you really got a problem, here's our address to sue us or something. Oh, I don't know where 4-H Shooting Sports is.
Yeah, I was looking. I can't see it either. It just has all their places listed as different things to go.
National Committee? Sign in. Clover knows. He doesn't talk about it. He won't tell anybody. Oh, here's another thing. You could go shooting sports and then address. That just says, oh, fucking Diamondback. So let's talk about Diamondback. This son of a bitch owes me 360 fucking bucks. He's a fucking asshole. So I built this guy's website back in the day and he ran it for many years. And then he just decided to not pay me 1 year. And I'm like, hey, what the fuck? And then he's just like, go fuck off. So fuck that guy.
He just didn't pay you? Just said, I ain't doing it?
Well, it might have not gone down exactly like that. But yeah, he never paid me 360 bucks for a year's worth of hosting, like after the fact. Because I was the guy that would host your site for a year and then charge you at the end of the year for whatever reason. I thought that was the way to do business. And that's when I stopped doing business. When fuckers like this fucker owes me 360 bucks, just told me to go pound sand. So anyway, I don't know why I fuck brought his shit up. I'm sure there's some way I could tell it, fuck you, duck, for showing me this fucking shit. So normally I wouldn't even acknowledge that he's a gun shop. He sucks. He's also a shitty gun shop. I guess I ran his site for a while. He was good while I ran his site, and then he even worse. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to find it. I think it's just each state, maybe.
It says I found on Wikipedia that the 4-H shooting sports program is headquartered in Washington, D.C.
Oh, really?
Yep. They have their own wiki page of 4-H shooting sports programs, and it's got all their info. It says they're run by the USDA and the Food and Agriculture, and their home base or headquarters, it lists Washington D.C. It is Wikipedia, so I don't know how deep they go into that, but that's what it says.
Oh, because it's
The federal.
administered to the National Institute of Agriculture. Yeah, so that's probably why. Although that still doesn't mean nothing because like our shooting sports, what do you call it? The Olympic shooting is in Colorado. So just because something is national doesn't always mean it's in DC.
Right. Yeah.
But like I say, whenever you go and look around that website, it'll talk about how they do their shooting at that place in Nebraska. So I don't know. This thing would probably say. But it's probably one of those things I'm thinking also that nobody cares who the national is because nobody interacts with national. Everybody's interacting with their parents and their parents are interacting with their community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they probably don't need national 4-H very often. Like I say, Clover knows. He's not telling us. All right, let's all go over here. So Pants is saying he doesn't know about Ohio. I need to be there. Which states do they not honor? I don't know who she's talking about.
I think she was talking about the reciprocity, but I forgot which one we were talking about when she asked it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if she's talking with them or what else. I'd have to look at a map again, but pretty much states that don't recognize others. I can go anywhere except New York, New Jersey, and such places. I was gonna say, but you can't go to Minnesota. Minnesota's one of those damn states where I wanted to go fishing there, but I could never get a permit.
I didn't even know Hawaii had a permit thing. I thought they were just.
Well, they do, but there's like 6.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, they're like New York and New York City and California and all that crap.
Well, like I say, this thing is, and I didn't. Whenever I found something, I would round a little bit. I don't know if I'm going the right way or the wrong way. I guess I'm going the wrong way. I would round up or down, so I wasn't trying to be super accurate because I don't know if these numbers were all that accurate anyway. But generally, because when you get when you get to those states that have very few, it says Hawaii is 0, but I know I've heard that Hawaii has like 6, and it's saying District of Columbia has 124.
Yeah.
So now did I, and I don't remember when I even heard that Hawaii has 6. It was not recently, it was a while ago. So that might be 6 in history, like there was 6, but now there's 0.
Right.
So I don't know if that means anything. And I just looked these numbers up online. So I don't know if any of these numbers are actually even right or not. This is just like the generally accepted numbers that I was able to find from different sources. So anyway, yeah, you get 100 or something here, but New York has more than I would have thought, 80,000, almost 90,000.
Yeah.
And you think of New York as not having none or very few. 90,000 doesn't seem like.
There are all the politicians that pay and play and.
Yeah, but that's got to be car dealers and just other people. Like that's a lot. That's more than the politicians. Something like Maryland with 17,000. Yeah, that's a bunch of politicians and their guards.
All the donors, I think it was in New York City. They had a bunch of, their list was a bunch of people who donated to the current mayor or whoever that was.
Yeah, but not everyone needs that. But on the other hand, some of them I was just thinking like guards and stuff. You don't necessarily care. You got a CCW, but you want to make sure your 4 guards do, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's worth discussing. And people can dig in. And again, once it's in a list where everybody can see the same list, even if it isn't, like I say, I don't know if it's 414 or 427.
Right. No,
that's 17,000 something. But at least we can kind of put it in perspective with each other and go, like, oh, Virginia, like I was looking at this, not this, something else in here. I think it was just plain old. I think it was number of, that's another one I have. Oh, that's just another one. Anyway, I was looking at Utah at 700,000, and I thought it was interesting, at least, that I thought it was somebody that was bigger than Utah. Maybe I thought it was interesting that Georgia, I don't know, we were talking about on the show the other day. I was thinking it was interesting that Georgia is smoking like Arizona at 300,000. You know, you'd think that there'd be more people in Arizona walking around with a gun than in Georgia, but we got constitutional carry, so maybe we are walking around with guns more. I don't know.
Yeah, it says here on the Wikipedia page that Hawaii has currently 0 active handgun carry licenses issued to private citizens in Hawaii.
Issued to private citizens. So that's the thing. The thing that I seen was like 6, and the one that they were bitching about was like somebody's daughter, like the governor's daughter or something.
Right.
So this one was actually kind of tough. I had to dig for this, but I think I've got, and I've talked to Diana. We're gonna, I think, talk about this. I have to check my emails and find out when, but I think I have the actual index of every chick who's been in the TC project. And that's something that I wanted to have, and I don't think it existed. So that took a little while. I'm glad we got that now. So that'll be a whole page in the book, and then a whole page. Next to that'll be just the concealed carries, and this is like raw meat. Like this here is just tough. Like there's some of these, like this one that says Texas September 1st is probably good to go because
I know. I remember. It's where I got my first concealed carry. That.
Right. So these other ones are like good luck in 1959. Like I don't know. And there was a couple in here where I just don't remember anymore. But I remember like I just had to fucking write a number at some point because I might find like every time I dig in, I would find like, oh, it's 1980, and now it's 1982, and now it's 1980, and now it's 1982, and now it's 1980, and now it's 1982. And I'm like, well, fuck, these are all valid sources, and they're all talking about something important, but they're all off by, they're putting themselves in two camps. So I figure what happens is somebody misplaces something somewhere, and then people just start copying that. And now you've got sources that copied the original, sources that copied the error.
Could they be using like the day like the law was signed and before, and then when it went to effect? It wouldn't be 2 years.
No, that could happen too. Yeah, exactly. If it like went into effect in like September and it didn't, whatever, so that it flipped over the year, like exactly. Yeah. So I couldn't spend forever. Like say, you got to draw a line somewhere. So this here is raw, and I know it, but whatever. It's just again to give some.
Yeah, but it's there. That's what you need. Yeah, you need something to start with, something to look at.
And then this is sort of the accumulation of it all. I put this in the back cover. I'm still fucking with the back cover a little bit, but this is going to be the top half of the back cover for sure. And so it's the key for all this. For everything I found in those charts is just here graphically.
And do you have this is like you have it set to 50 pages, right? It's 50 pages or?
No, it's more than that
okay.
Because the front and back make it, I think it's, I'm going to go back one page. I forgot where they start getting numbered.
Yeah, now we're just curious.
58. So there's 58, 59, 60. So there must be 50 pages plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then it covers 8, 9, and 10. Yeah. So there's some pages at the end. So you got DC, that's 51.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Then you got State Firearms. I gave that a page. Then you've got the DC Project. I gave them a page. And then you've got the concealed carries. That was that big page I was just saying was all raw. I gave 2 pages at the end where I'll be doing the, my own plugs and then talk about the people that made it possible through Patreon and stuff. And then in the store. Yeah. And then the inside back cover is just like a big map, sort of that tree.
Right.
And then there's the table of contents. But then that's it. Everything else is a page per state. And at first I really thought I was going to have to like spread, like a big state over into a little state, but I was just able to kind of Tetris it all in there and can give a consistent whatever format or feel to the thing throughout. So it came out pretty good. And then for the states that are not holding their own weight, added things like this, where there's a section to the bottom of it or whatever.
You got good info to put in there, yeah. When you said DC, I was forgetting about DC, and then I was thinking about places like the territories too. Like, and even though obviously it's a whole different thing, but that's
No, it's the United States, and I thought about doing like a page with like Guam, Puerto Rico, and then all the other shit. But honestly, like I don't think there's even that whole page would just be like Hawaii.
Yeah.
On the back cover here, I
Right.
decided to not put Hawaii on there because there's nothing in there. It would just be sitting there looking like a chump. Now I might put it in there to embarrass them, or to make sure people realize that I didn't forget Hawaii. It's just sitting there being empty. But it's like California. It's just sitting there hating the Second Amendment so bad that it doesn't want any little colors on it. Just like New Jersey, New York, fucking California. Even like Illinois shut the fuck up already and got CCW.
Yeah, the NRA, they did that suit in Puerto Rico where they said that their gun laws were just horrendous, and they won. And then Puerto Rico had to, for a while, basically had the best gun laws in the nation because they're basically just the winner. They were struck down. No one did a stay or thing. And then they came. I don't know what they ended up coming with, but it went through passing in less than a year, and it was a big mess. And from my dad lives there now. He lives there, and he was telling me that the police, even though you can now own, guns and all stuff like that down there, they don't crap. They find you with a gun in your house or anything like that, you go to jail. They just don't care about that. The law is no longer valid and all that. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. And I just such a tangent, but it just got me thinking about it when I was thinking about DC and and all that stuff like that. But that would be not related to their accomplishment, but what has changed, But anyways, just a tangent. Just got me thinking about it. It's horrible.
Thinking of that and reading all the stuff that people have been putting in here. I guess I was up or back a ways. You never know when I leave something on a thing. I guess I turned it off, but and then everybody starts chatting. It moves pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
All right. So you were saying they don't usually cow parts in Ohio. I guess he's saying DC is not a state, but it is. Well, it's not a state, but it's hanging out in the middle of all the states, and it has gun laws. That's the thing. Where like I was going to say, like Puerto Rico and them. I don't think they Puerto Rico might have some gun laws and Guam might have some gun laws, but everything else, I don't know if they got gun laws. I don't know. Maybe I should have put them in here. I'll go look.
The Virgin Islands, Samoa,
right.
There's a couple more, yeah.
So maybe I will, because what the hell, they're part of the country. It's just that I'm calling it the 50 states. So
yeah, no, it would be, yeah.
But here's the thing too. Like this turned out to be sort of, I don't know what to call it. Like it's not a book, it's not a coloring book or nothing. It's not a graphic novel. It's just sort of I don't know what to call it. But this is piece of paper folded in half, right? So whatever that is, 8.5 by 5.5.
Is it a booklet?
And like a book you can shove in your pocket, kind of thing.
A booklet.
I'm thinking though, because of some of these states, it's just like too crammed in. Like New York, like a shit ton of stuff happened in New York. There's just too much stuff. And I had to already take out like Dr. What's his face from Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. I took him out of here because I couldn't fit him in here anymore. I didn't want to take out anybody else. So I was thinking I could turn this into a 8.5 by 11, like a normal piece of paper size book.
Like a notebook.
Like a magazine, yeah. And that gave me a lot more room on the pages. Then I could go in and put the Old West type of stuff and get into more level like that. So
can you would you have to redo all your layout or just hit
100%. But I would use that as an opportunity to do a different book. Like this was my first attempt and it's this style. I would do a different style, a different book. But that's all I'm getting at is I might go back and redo all this stuff or reattempt something like this. That's just more thorough, but less comic book, like more just get data across. I just didn't feel like writing something that was just data because nobody gives a shit about just data. Like I want to put something in your hand that you can thumb through and it's got visual aids and stuff and you've got
those books that are just numbers, just like people use them like dictionaries just when they need to look something up and they don't look at them again.
Well, I don't think they even do. Yeah, they know that they've got the information, but then they just rather not look it up because it's boring and lame. So anyway, I might try to do something else But I probably won't do that right way because this is neat, but it's not my passion or nothing. It was just a necessary step to get to the next step. So I'll keep working on the rest of the 2A history project, but I might do. Well, I know that I will eventually do the same thing, but in a larger format. Because there's other things that I'm missing. Like I didn't want to dwell on the bullshit, but things like something that's not in here, and I didn't want to make it 2A. I made it gun. Well, I guess I did make it 2A. What the fuck am I saying? I called it 50 States of 2A. I didn't want to make it too like preachy. So while there's some stuff like about, McDonald's versus Chicago, I can't not put that in here, right? I can't put Hitler versus DC, right?
Yeah, or Heller and all that stuff.
But there's so much stuff in New York that's good. Let's use New York as an example because it's normally gets a bad rap for being shitty. But like Remington is fucking in New York. Like, come on, our oldest gun company is in New York. Obviously, the NRA should be probably on New York. I don't know why. I guess I did. So I got the NRA in here. Got all these different gun companies, but then inventors that come out of New York, like writers and other stuff, they're not farting around. But the first gun law was in New York. Like, there's also so much anti-shit that I could have put on here. If it was something like Nebraska that's just phoning it in, like if Nebraska did a bunch of anti-gun shit, I'd have no problem going over here to Nebraska
and filling it in.
This whole section with anti-gun shit. Like if the anti-gun Hitler was here, I would tell everybody about it. But they're not. They're all from fucking New York, which I'm not going to kick anything good out to put like Nancy Pelosi in here. So
you don't kick anyone out of Texas to put Beto in.
Yeah, exactly. But I also don't want to not have that. So I'll do another one for sure so that I can have room to include, like I'll put like a line and it'll be like all the stuff at the bottom is the assholes. Like that'll be like, the anti.
That's
the other side of the Peter's daughter.
That's a good idea. That's good.
Because no, seriously, like we need to know who the enemy is and where they come from. And a portion of this is, like I was saying, it's going to work with the almanac in a way, but then you still can't get history across just by when and where. Why you need to know why and how, right? So this is where, and then the almanac will be when, but then the why is something that I have to maybe do on a timeline or something. So I'm not sure how. I'm still trying to figure out how to get that accomplished. But like this is a timeline, starting with the Second Amendment down here in blue. And then as you go up this left side, the green things are different militia acts, the things that created like the NRA and the National Guard and all shit like that. You got the orange shit is Supreme Court cases that made decisions about Second Amendment. Then you've got the brown ones, which are national federal laws. So the 1934, the 1968, the assault weapons ban, shit like that. And then the red ones are import restrictions. So right off the bat, you can tell that we didn't get nothing. And this is not in scale. This goes 176 years before we had the first federal law, right? But, then it's only been 3 decades since then.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be in scale. It just needs to get the info.
Well, no, it needs to be in scale in order to show that for 6 decades, we've had a lot of attention, but for 176 years, nothing. Like we lived a giant country without any kind of infringements or any kind of interference, I should say. Right. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing that you got to get across on like a time frame. But here's the thing: when you get into it, and look at how, and this is because this isn't complete, it's difficult to show this. But when you look at the beginning, the things that first start are the slaves who said "fuck this," and the chicks said "fuck this" even more, picked up guns and started freeing slaves and shit. Right. And then you get the Indian Wars as we go east or west, I guess.
West.
And we have the Indian Wars, and then if I had them in here, like Buffalo Bill and shit like that, but I got Annie Oakley in here. But then you get 1903 Militia Act says basically get your shit together and start the Illinois State Rifle Association, every state rifle and pistol association, at least everybody that was a state in 1903, right? All of those start their national or their state level organizations. And then like 15 minutes later, competition shooting is invented. So competition shooting is shooting fucking birds out of the air. Well, right off the bat, they start pissing people off and they almost make pigeons go extinct. So Like they invent shotguns,
Really?
and 15 minutes later we start shooting the fuck out of birds, and we almost make them go extinct. So immediately we got environmental attacks and attacks against hunting and shit. So there's that.
I didn't
And
know that about the pigeons. That's
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's what it's trying to get across is that we've had these waves, right? Like, so first it was like against hunting, and then it was like against the, like, you're got to be too young to hunt, or you're hunting drunk, or, you know, then it was like, I don't like the look of your gun. And then, you know, so there's these different waves of attacks.
lead.
And the reaction to that is new organizations. So the first organizations are NSSF and industry stuff. And they are, well, first trying to sell stuff because we've got like, hey, guess what? We have all these new inventions, so let's sell them. And then, oh, well, you're getting an unfair tax over here, and you're getting some kind of law against hunting, and you're getting a law that says you can't, you know, assemble with a loaded shotgun. You know, you're all getting these different attacks. And then some of the resistance becomes successful organizations that, you know, go on. Later on, you get to like handguns are the bad thing. Like you can't have Saturday night specials, right? The whole 68 bullshit.
Yeah, 68. Yep.
So you have some people who hate rifles because you could sniper people. But then you also have people who are against handguns. So then you get gun owners of California coming out against the restrictions on handguns. Anyway, so that's where I'm trying to say that there's a whole nother thing that I'm discovering, or I've
Handgun controlling.
understood it was there, but like I haven't seen anything that explains it. And that's what I'm trying to say is like I can show, you can put stuff in here by state, and you can put stuff in here in a calendar, but that's still not like a timeline. Like somehow I got to come up with something that will show like the waves of attack, because that's once you figure out that, hey, wait a minute, my grandpa got attacked like this, and my dad got attacked like this. Then this isn't the first time we're getting attacked like this. We don't have to run around like, oh, these 14 people that are investing with us somehow have control. Like, no, they're just playing the same fucking rerun.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just the first time we're watching the rerun. But after the second time we've seen it, it doesn't affect us any.
Basically, you got to show cause and effect and show how it keeps happening. The same BS.
Yeah. And then also the resistance. So, like, when people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, someone.
We're like, oh, we can't, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. Well, did this guy think it when he was 26 years old? You know, when he started the Citizens Committee? Did these guys think that when they had, you know, their dad who told them to do whatever? Like, did this guy think that when he was sitting around, you know, farting around with lizards in his backyard?
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
and you know, one of the things, and I know one of the things that like, I hate the 34, you know, the NFA thing, whatever. One of the things to me that's obvious about it is like $200 in 1934 was like almost like $3,000, I think.
Yeah.
And they've never adjusted for inflation, which is awesome. But basically that's saying, you know, no NFA guns for the poor, for the minorities, for anyone who can't afford $3,000 when they buy, you know. To me, that's so blatant.
Well, that wasn't for the poor. That was nobody. Like nobody could spend $3,000. So that was nobody. That wasn't just the poor. That was just some sort of it was sort of like the same thing they did with marijuana.
It was a tax to kill it.
Yeah, they didn't try to, what did they say? They didn't try, I forget how it all went down. But yeah, they put some kind of tax on it so they could say, oh, you got marijuana? Where's your tax stamp?
Yeah.
I don't have my tax stamp. Okay, so now I can put you in jail or something.
Death by taxation.
They're never going to give you a tax stamp. Yeah, there was some sort of bullshit like that. So I think it was sort of that. Like they were trying to get it to where you pull that maneuver where, oh, well, you can have the gun if you got the stamp. It's just there's no possible way for you to get the stamp.
Yep.
So DJ is saying, do you have a must identify when carrying concealed? That's not a must identify. What do they call that? They call that a
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, there's a word for that. Yeah, you have to announce in Nebraska. I'd prefer to answer the inquiry rather than to just blurt it out. That's a duty to inform. That's how it's usually described. So no, there's no duty to inform in Arizona. I don't know. Again, I can't even count how many times I've been pulled over, had interactions with cops, and almost not pretty much always positive. I guess it's never, you know, I'm not a felon or a criminal or nothing, but I've had traffic tickets, and I've not always been super excited about getting a traffic ticket. But like I think one time I was in the cop car, and well, I know one time I was in the cop car, and I think, what did I have? I had a light out or something. I think I had a light out or something. Like it was something dumb where they were just pulling me over to like see if I was farting around, and then
Right.
they let me go. But it was like a warning type of bullshit. And I was really close to home, so it really bothered me because it's like, what the fuck? Like you see me here all the time. So what do you think? It's like I'm out of place or something. Anyway, they pulled me over into this parking lot, and that guy, I forget how, because it was forever ago, but he got he went into my pocket, pulled my gun out of my pocket, and then unloaded it and gave it back to me. And that was the weirdest shit. That was a state guy in a regular street. So you know what I mean? Like out of his normal jurisdiction. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe I don't know. I got pulled over twice in the cop car ever. But I figure the guys that pulled me over, it was for nothing. So I figured they probably had dealt with bad guys in cop cars doing weird shit.
Yeah.
And were pulling me over just to double check. But again, I'm
in Texas when the concealed carry came in and I had it. I think I can't remember 2 or 3 times, but this was in the Houston area. What they would do is I tell them, hey, I'm carrying or whatever. They would literally have me remove the gun and place it on the floorboard on the passenger seat, and then that's it. That's all. They would leave, go to their car, write the ticket, and come back, and they just look and make sure it's there. And then when I'm done, they say I can pick the gun up, put it back in my holster, and it's like all 3 of them did that. I remember that clearly. I guess that's how they decided to handle that back then. I don't know how it is now, but this was in the 90s.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because you'd have to go out of your way to get to it or something.
Yeah.
You're not going to get back over to you most of the time.
They'd see you ducking down.
Nowadays, I got pulled over. I can't remember if it was in Arkansas or Tennessee. Probably in Tennessee, going to the 2A rally. I got pulled over, and he said I got pulled over for not having a light on my
License plate.
Yeah, and really, he was just pulling me over because I'm driving to Arizona and in the middle of Tennessee, going east in the middle of the night. But that guy, and I don't like how nowadays they come over to your passenger side because I don't have the windows, so I gotta fucking climb all over to get over there and open the window. So anyway, that guy, that was Tennessee, I guess. He goes, "Do you got a gun?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You leave it where it's at, and I'll leave mine." I go, "All right." And that was the end he said of it. And then in Arizona, it's like, "You got a gun?" "Yeah." "All right." And actually, the last 2 times in Arizona, I had a gun, and they didn't even fucking bring it up. So I think it's if they're familiar and used to guns, they just don't care. And then I think it's also, I'm an old white guy. So they look at me and they go, out of all the people that ever freak out, this guy ain't drunk, and he's like an old guy. There's nothing he could probably do anyway. He's all feeble and fat. So, like, what can I possibly do? So if you're some
they think you're a FUD?
Huh?
Do they think you're a FUD or something, harmless FUD?
No, I am harmless. That's what I'm saying. Like a big fat guy, what am I going to do? Like wobble my way out of the fucking thing and roll at him? Like I'm not no harm. Now, if you're a young, you could be a football player or a wrestler or something, then of course a cop is going to have to treat you differently than some old guy. So our experiences, all I'm saying, my experiences aren't anything. They're the experience of some cop pulling over somebody in their experience who's never going to give them any shit. Yeah. So, I'm saying they treat me accordingly. But, if I was drunk or acting weird, I am 100% certain that my experiences would be totally different, right?
Yeah. Or if you were a college kid in a fancy car.
Well, exactly. Or a dumb kid being dumb again. Because when I was dumb and young, I guess I was just lucky. Or they didn't care. Or I just, whatever, probably lucky. But I never drove drunk or nothing. But, just driving around fast and shit. I definitely drove around fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's got their share of speeding tickets.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing, well, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, back in the day, when you don't care about the future because you think it's going to last forever, and you drive around all fast and you get a speeding ticket, it's not like you got mad. Like, I don't remember ever getting mad about getting a speeding ticket. I felt like embarrassed, I guess. And like,
that's what I felt. I was like, man, everyone's looking at me while they're, I got busted, they're just looking, and I'm embarrassed because that's the feeling that I got when I got pulled over.
Yeah, and then you start thinking about like, dang it, like all the stuff you could buy with the money you're going to now just be given to the
Yeah,
state.
traffic
Uh,
class or whatever. Yeah,
Except for like a couple of U-turns and shit after. Like I remember getting a U-turn ticket I thought was a dumbass thing. But at the same time, I was a dumb kid who figured I could turn at any time. And really, I was making a U-turn on a downhill. So it's just a dumb place to be making U-turn. That's why they have a U-turn sign there. So it's different. Like go do a ride along, do a ride along with like cops or an ambulance because you can do it with both.
yeah. No, I was a
I
firefighter.
don't
An
know about
EMT.
firefighters. You probably could do ride-alongs with firefighters too.
I was a
But
firefighter in EMT in Texas, and we had ride-alongs, but they couldn't get out of the truck. So, but yeah. we did
oh,
them.
okay. Well, with a fire because it could be dangerous, but with an EMT, well, and also I was doing ride-alongs as an EMT student, so I don't know if you can just say, "Hey, I want to drive around with an ambulance," and they're going to be like, "Sure," because I don't think they can do that. But if you can do ride-alongs with cops though, and if you do that, you figure out really fast that like when your job is sitting around in a car on the road, and you got to clean up all the dead people that happen on the road, like you have a different experience with car accidents than the rest of us just see car accidents. Most of the time we see car accidents as we drive past them,
Right.
and we're just upset that they slow us down, unless you're in the car accident. And then even most of us have been in car accidents and we just blow them off because unless you die in the car accident or something horrible happens,
it's
you don't
more
think
of an
about it.
inconvenience. It's inconvenience. It's not a life-threatening thing most of the time.
Yeah, but if you're the people scraping it up, they just have a whole different experience in car accidents because they're dealing with one every single night, probably maybe two every night.
Nope.
And that's a different experience than somebody who never experiences it in their whole life.
I have very vivid memories of many different things, and especially like when I first joined, I joined in '91, and the first fatality accident that I made was a double fatality accident. Some guy in a Mustang was speeding, lost control, hit a tree, everyone died. And for like the next month, I was driving like 20 miles an hour everywhere I went. It's just like obviously you get past that, but it's like, damn, and for stupid stuff, so yeah.
Well, no, that's the thing is you get to because that's the thing. It's not just seeing blood and gore. It's the idea that like this wasn't necessary or this was a complete accident. Like this was somebody being safe and doing the right thing, but like a bolt broke or something, and now their wheel went flying and they died anyway. Like you know what I mean? Like you just see all the different consequences of all the different things, and you start to put it in a different perspective is all. Like you said, I don't know. I guess everybody's got to deal with it differently. And I only barely experienced it enough to go, okay, I have a different appreciation for people that have to deal with this every day. Like that's just different. It's a different life experience, right? Like you're more, I don't know if responsible is the word, but you're more like responsible really because the rest of the world is aware of it, but they're like, able to turn it off. Like, oh, I know that there's an accident every night, but I don't have to think about it. Click.
One of the things one of the things that I know that I did is I became way more careful at intersections, driving at night, just because. And I don't know whether that made a difference for me or not, but I saw enough stuff that people didn't see coming or something stupid, where I took the time to, even if I got a green light. I kind of just make sure, people do this anyway, but I was very sure to look or whatever, different things at different times. It definitely makes you more aware of like, you could be doing everything right and you can get creamed.
Well, and you could be doing everything right, be in the wrong place at the wrong time because you're next to, or you're at the other side of a blind turn that a bunch of yahoos don't pay attention to. So yeah, you could just be the casualty, the innocent bystander
or the drunk who's coming down the road.
But then as soon as you, well, not as soon as, but as you become experienced with that kind of shit, you start to figure out like, oh, this is a bad intersection. Like this is the kind of turn where people die. And then you start to know that and your spidey sense turns on and you get the hell through that turn, in a safe way so that you're not lingering. It's like, if I got to change my tire, I don't think I'm going to change my tire right here at the bottom of this blind turn. I'm going to change my tire over there where it's a lot more lit.
3 years after I joined the fire department, then I became EMT. And again, more stuff to add on the health side of it. It's just, well, you're right. You pick up on stuff like that when you have that viewpoint.
Now, when I was doing it, I didn't even consider going into the fire department EMT that way. It's like as far as emergency services, because it was like I did my EMT at a local college here in Tucson. 99% of the people, I don't know, a lot of the people at least, were going into whatever you call like medical limousines. Like it's not like emergency. I'm taking
private ambulances, private ambulance service,
like a private ambulance, but like not emergency stuff. Just like I'm an old fat guy, or I'm like some lady that's on a respirator, and I need to go to the hospital on Thursday. So I'm going to call you, and you're going to show up at 9 on Thursday, take me over to the hospital, and then wait around, and whatever.
A lot of nursing homes use them too to take their patients to their checkups and blah blah blah.
Yeah, so it's like literally no stress. You're literally just a taxi driver who has the ability to keep you alive on the way to wherever you're going.
If you crash,
yeah, like you're seriously just a little bit bigger Uber driver. But
a babysitter.
So I never really pursued it because, like I said, I never really thought about going into the actual fire department or what. Only because I had already worked for the uncle before, and I didn't really feel like working for the government ever again. Even though it's different, you know what I mean? You get inadvertently screwed walking around a bunch of elephants. You know what I mean? Like the elephants don't care about stepping on you; they're trying not to step on you, but you're going to get stepped on.
Yeah. Yep. No, I did it for from 91 to 2000.
Right on. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, man, it was completely selfish reasons. It was good pay, and when I was young, I was thinking I would get all the girls.
No, well, that's what you're allowed to, because you're doing shit, and everyone knows that you're doing shit that's above and beyond when you're doing that.
Yeah, I joined straight out of high school. That was fun.
So I got Woods in here.
Hey, fellas.
Good evening.
You solving all the world's problems?
Most of them.
Excellent. So why did you get out of being a firefighter, can I ask?
I basically was bored of it. I wanted to start my own business. We worked something called the drop. So we only worked 9 days a month because we worked 24-hour shifts. So we'd do 1 day on, 1 day on, 1 day on, 5 days off, and that was our schedule forever. So a lot of us went to different fire departments, like the smaller departments, to work on those days off. And I burnt myself out. I got tired of it. I loved it. I really had fun at it. And then I decided I just wanted to try something else. And I did. And then in 2003, I got married. In 2005, I got married to a doctor. And apparently, I didn't have to work anymore.
Well, that's nice. I want to be kept. I know some paramedics who are in cities, and they're not burnt out. They're just no fun anymore. Like I remember these are the one guy I'm thinking of. I knew him back in the olden days when we worked just at a regular job, and just being young kids or whatever, and farting around, and then our money on weekends and whatever. And I was chatting with him at a thing, recently after how many years that's been, and he's a pretty established paramedic, let's put it that way. Like he's done as much as you can do as a paramedic. I think he might even be a captain, but he's a
veteran.
Yeah, he's definitely been there and done that, and he's succeeded. He hasn't just been coasting, he's been pursuing the gig. But when you talk to him, he's like, I don't know, you ever talk like to a really competent mechanic, and like they can just diagnose, and they don't have no emotion. It's like, oh, you've got a bad catalytic converter, and then blah blah blah, and then like, oh, whatever. Like he's just like very, you get calloused, I guess. And I was like, wow, that's something that I was just kind of thinking about it. Like,
it becomes all business.
Yeah, all business, but like life and death stuff becomes all business because we're all just machines. And once you know how to work a machine, and you've seen like a million, oh, if I do this, that'll happen. You just really, it's such a, so anyway, I was just like, this guy never seemed like that kind of guy to me. And then I don't want to say it like dulled his eyes over. He's confident and he's happy. I think it's just that, like, it's just a really, I don't know what to say. It's just, I don't want to say it's negative either, but you certainly get
No,
a callous to you when you're working in a service like that. And it's not a cop thing. Cops tend to start hating people or
no,
be
yeah. I mean,
really,
and like when he asked me, like, why? One of the reasons is I joined the fire department and I got my EMT, and I disliked the ambulance so very much. So I got back on a truck because I got so, and kind of like I said, it's kind of callous. I hated going to. I would help anyone. I did it. I even volunteered too because on the different departments because I like doing it. But I got so sick of the little things that ruin it, and like people calling us unnecessarily. You get sick of the violence, the unnecessary violence. You see children hurt and all that, and
yeah, like you don't want to know the fucking horrible shit. And I get to sit here and not know about the horrible shit. But when you're that guy, you got to go find out the horrible shit that people do.
yeah, and so like, and I don't know how everyone else does it, but I just I did the thing and I went home and never didn't think about it again. Did the thing, went home, didn't think about it again, and that worked out for me. I've never had any problems with that, but it's definitely like people when you talk about it to other people, they can say like, how can you say it like that? Because I don't notice that I'm saying something pretty horrendous, which was something that when I went to a call, whatever it was. I understand that my viewpoint is way different. Everyone's individual, of course, but we're like, it's a job, we got to do it. We got to get this person to this place or do this. And I imagine, like I said, I've never been in the military, but those people in the military that do all the heavy lifting on that stuff, I imagine it's the same way for them. They do some incredible stuff and they can probably be very callous about it, but I have no experience in that, and I'd probably be like, wow, that's pretty damn hard.
Yeah, heavy lifting is the way to say it too, because it's like one thing to go, cure the person and take credit for curing them or coming up with something in a laboratory that cures them, or to do some procedure that, fixes their ailment or whatever, or to counsel them and get them to do right. But it's a whole nother thing to have to show up and go past the kids and the neighbors and the shouting dog and then listen to the person who's abusive or whatever yell at you for coming in to bother them while you go pull them up or scoop them up off of the ground or out of underneath some gross place and then drag them in. And then you put them in front of that doctor who gets all the credit for, oh, well, here.
Yeah.
It's like, and that you're never going to get more than oh, thank you. And that at the same time you're getting oh, thank you. You're just another raincoat or
we had and I always we always, just as many as there were ignorant people, we always had a lot of patients who were very grateful for us and were very nice and kind. There was all kinds. There was terrible people and there were good people, and of course children are children, and so but it's kind of like when there's a joke about a doctor comes in, did brain surgery on somebody, saved their life, and the family comes in, they say, oh, thank God, instead of thanking the surgeon, they thank God. It's different. Everyone's got a different viewpoint and all that stuff, but we had really good people just as much as we had really bad people. In my experience, I don't know, it depends, everyone's different, but we had people, and like some people would, after they were healthy or free or out, they would bring us cookies or flour, whatever. They would send stuff to the stations, and so we had just as many good as we did bad, probably more good than bad. But
right on. That's good to hear.
Yeah, there's always a spectrum when you're in the public with the public.
That's true. But the thing is, I guess unless it's outnumbered, where you rarely have to do anything negative. That negative stuff is what gives you that callus or whatever. I guess that's what it's supposed to be. But the good stuff might keep you going, but it doesn't negate it. It doesn't just dissolve the bad stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff is sad. When kids, that was always, everyone hates that. And that happens, but you still got to do it, get it done, get what happened, go back and start over again on the next. It's, I obviously it messes. It just makes you to a point where you have to ignore it.
You have to. Otherwise, you can't go to a Band-Aid and then a jugular bleed,
Yep.
and then a pregnancy, and then a death, like
Yep.
in the same shift. You
Yep.
got to be able to get numb to that.
Yeah, it's like the cancer doctors that work with kids. I have no idea how they do that. Because so many of them pass away. To me, that's horrendous. I don't know how they show up to work, and I guess they try to help. But man, seeing that every day, ugh.
Well, I'm assuming it's got to be them realizing that you're on a staircase or a ladder, and that everybody's contributing to a future that eliminates it, right?
Yeah,
At least that's what I'm assuming.
yeah. I get everyone's different, but it's like I said, like the people in the military who do some really hard, heavy duty or go through that stuff, and then they have to become, to a certain way, very callous or jaded or whatever you want to call it, about taking lives. Even though most of us don't want to ever take a life, and they have to do it, and they have to do it and keep on doing. It's everyone
Like
sees that from a different perspective.
Like a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have to compartmentalize?
Yeah, especially because like when I started when I was very young, and I was dating, and you learn really quickly how much people do and don't want to hear, and so, or who will listen if you're talking about something, and not like you're trying to make fun of something or talk about something or whatever, but you learn to, like, okay, I will not talk about any of this again with this person, and then you don't want to think about it yourself. It's I think we all do that with our lives in a certain way, and so but compartmentalization is a big part of that, especially when you're working heavy duty stuff. So
Yeah, I've worked most of my career with kids with behavior disorders, and 95% of them, you don't want to know what happened to that kid. You just don't want to know. People ask me, you don't want to know. I know. I want to know. And you have to just put it aside and go do the thing that nobody else is willing to do. Yeah.
And again, that's another one. People who work with children like that, to me, I'd be a chicken. I no way I couldn't. I can't even imagine. So it's a different perspective for everyone. I think we all do it in one way or another.
That's pretty neat, G.
Yeah, thanks. I've just been thumbing through it, trying to, like here, I can show you in New York. Oh, no, wait, I already fixed it. If I was showing you the piece of paper that I printed, I had, what the hell's New York? I had this building was jammed over here, and it had some writing, and I was like, well, I'm satisfied that black writing is on top of like a faded out building. Like, that'll be all right. But then when I seen it printed, I was like, nah, it's a mess. But then it became obvious, like, I just didn't switch it with this guy, and there's all kinds of room then. So it's just that kind of thing. Every time you, I guess, fresh eyes, right? You look like there's enough pages that if I forget about one, I can look at it kind of with fresh eyes and go, oh, well, I should shuffle this over here or shovel that around to there.
Yep.
So I'm just kind of doing that stage at this point.
If you end up doing what you were just talking about earlier about making it into like a notebook size or magazine size, then you'd have to.
Well, when you're talking going bigger, that'll be way in the future. Like this will definitely not be part of this. That will take weeks and weeks, if not.
That's okay. That's where I was thinking. I was going, that's a lot of work.
No, that was a ton. Like I had started this earlier in the year, right? And then at some point I was pretty darn close. Like I thought I was done, but each of the pages looked like this. And I was like, oh, I'm done. Like I've got every Second Amendment advocate in here. I've got almost all the inventors in here, and I got the museums. That's it. I'm done. And I had this top part, right? I'm like, there you go. That's amazing. And then I basically added a little bit more, and then I had a page that looked like this, and then a page that was empty. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's super unbalanced. So I just started adding stuff. And anyway, so at some point then, my hard drive crashed and I lost literally all of it.
Oh,
I had to start piecing it back together, but I had printed out one hard copy. So I had printed out one thing. I knew where I was at, but I couldn't just start there. So it took me a while to put it all back together. But anyway, what was I getting at? It's sort of like an onion or whatever. So
layers
yeah.
and layers. Well, you said earlier when I first got on, you were talking about people don't want to turn a page and see half a page blank, and they're like, "Hey, what the hell?"
Yeah, I figure there's no point in spending, or at least I don't want to have one page like this where there's a ton of stuff, and then
have a half blank page.
So that's why I started putting in these other things. So it's more like the almanac in that respect, that it's not just. But then each of these things that I've added are state centric, so they're to show you what's going on in states, or at least the states are a big part of it, to show that these things are all over the country, I guess.
Right.
The different things, but anyway, so that's what I've just been doing, is going through it, and at some point, I've got a couple another. I guess if I'm thinking of at some point I was like, well, I want to put the sporting stuff in here, so. You got to draw a line, you got to start somewhere, you got to finish somewhere. I wanted to put the CCW stuff, right? So that wasn't that hard. There's only 5 CCW things, at least as far as like insurance and stuff. But then there's other things that, are bigger. So whenever I got to say, well, I'm going to start putting in manufacturers, because what's the point of having all this and not talk about the manufacturers? Holy crap, do we have a lot of manufacturers.
Yeah, so I've seen the ATF list. It's hundreds, if not 1,000.
Yeah, and of course I don't have every of them, but that was the thing, is I was able to get stuff on some of these pages that aren't really full by including that kind of stuff. So then anyway, then it was like, well, I could put the auctions in there, the big auction houses that are neat, and that was kind of cool. So anyway, these things all kind of touch each other, and then something like would become obvious, like maybe a guy left a company to start something, and I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting, I'll add that too. And then there's 3 different versions, like this gunsmith thing in California. That's an interesting one. So I wanted the gunsmithing schools. That's pretty easy. There's only however many of them, right? Mm-hmm. So I go find out that this Lawson is the oldest gunsmithing school in the country. It's been around since 1945. It's our oldest gunsmithing school. And it's a real school. Like you go there and you're going to school. Well, then everybody's heard of AGI before. This is the videotapes at the back of magazines. Well, this guy... So there's the oldest gunsmithing school in the country, and then the guy who's the gunsmith there is where I think it was like Smith and Wesson or Dan Wesson or somebody, when they had a gun that came in for warranty work, they sent it to this guy.
Yeah. And
he would fix that gun and send it back to Smith and Wesson. He was the repair shop for companies, like more than one company.
Yeah, I have some of his videos, and he talks about I can't remember. I think he mentioned them a few times, but that I don't know if Lassen is a college, but that he was also an instructor. He was a gunsmith teacher.
Right. He taught gunsmiths, yeah. But then not just like, here's your certificate or whatever, but like, I've been a gunsmith forever doing crazy stuff, and here's my skills. Like, here's all these tips and tricks and skills. So when that guy is getting close to retirement, I don't remember his name because I don't have the gunsmiths in here. I just have the gunsmith school. But when that guy is getting close to retirement, this guy who was one of his students goes, and I think he was working for him. Like the guy was a teacher, but he was also had a business, and this guy worked.
Bob Dunlap.
That's the AGI guy, yeah.
Yep.
And then he goes, you know what? Why don't we record all of your lessons before you die? Basically.
I saw that
video. That's where AGI comes from. So then AGI happens, and that was 1945, the first gunsmithing school. At some point in 1993, they decided to do AGI. But then you fast forward to 2010, and the guy from AGI gets together with a bunch of people and starts this gunsmithing club. So
I never heard of that one.
It's kind of a new thing, but it's interesting. So anyway, that's where this turns into this, which is still a gunsmithing school. That's not a big leap. But then it turns into this leap, which then made me think about, there's not just Second Amendment organizations, but there's industry organizations. I guess that's the way to put it. Like a
Yeah.
bunch of gunsmiths. That's not necessarily 2A, but it's 2A. I mean, it is gun
Right.
community. So that made me look at other stuff like that. So yeah, there's some neat stuff that's happening. So when you look at, we were talking about 2A before and how, we've had different waves of attack or whatever. I don't have the schools listed on a page in here, but there's quite a few of the shooting schools. Like this Mid-South is a shooting school, just founded in 1981. Kind of, you can tell 1981, way before a lot of these other schools. There's some long-range shooting schools in here, which I don't know as much about, but the concealed carry cops and CCW type of training is what I'm more familiar with. Like all that stuff comes out of mostly like guys that were in the military and then went to law enforcement and were, I don't know, like somehow instructors. And then, maybe instructors in the military went to law enforcement because they were instructors. They just kept instructing. But then the same way as those gunsmiths, at some point they get together and go, oh, like, hey, let's come up with a standard, or let's come up with a system, or let's get together once in a while. And some of that stuff is, like I say, it's really neat. And it just becomes more and more layers, I guess, or more and more.
That AGI story you were talking about, how the guy said, before you die, you have so much information. We'll record it. I have some of the guy's videos, and I'm not a gunsmith, but I learn about stuff like that. And he tells that story, like the guy said, we need to get that information because, when you go away or when you retire, who's going to take your place or how, and all that.
Like no one can bring your experience. They can
Right.
say what you said, but they can't know that if you nudge this or when you tweak that or when that gets too hot.
Yeah. And that probably applies to a lot, everything besides just gunsmithing. Yeah. But especially because they're so, especially with all the AR-15, everyone does their own stuff now, and there's way less gunsmiths now. I'm sure that there used to be. I don't, I used to see them in the phone book when I was little. I don't know how many you'd find now. And like in just a small city, like,
It might not seem like it, but if I go to here, the gunsmithing schools, so you've got.
There's more than I thought.
Yeah, like there's the good ones and then there's the shitty ones. And the good ones will take like 30 people per semester or per session. So you figure that's 30 plus people going out from each school. And some of them are much bigger, but the fanciest schools or whatever,
Right.
like they have it pretty much hands-on. So there's only going to be limited number of people. And then others that are larger, like that Pennsylvania one, I think they've got larger classes. When I see their class sizes, it's, a dozen people or whatever. But anyway, yeah, there's each of these classes, but then there's these phone it in, just do it all long distance.
Right.
And that means you, like you say, you don't necessarily need to be freaking, I don't know, the name of some,
Ed Brown.
famous gunsmith. Yeah. You just need to be able to do something for somebody and manipulate the tools the right way. And that you can get from experience and from videos and stuff. So we've got a lot of gunsmiths out there, but yeah, there's not, I don't know what the word is. It's not like there's competitive gunsmithing or like there's no appreciation for gunsmiths hardly like there used to be, I think.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I'm discovering, like, here, let me go over to the website. That's a little bit easier way. Because right now we've been looking at it on the pages, right? And it's, when you look at it on the pages, they're kind of stuck there. But when you go look at it from here, I can't make that bigger or smaller, but each one of these is manufacturer. So there's 6, and then that's 18. So every 3 is 20. So that would be 2, 3, 4, 5, well over 100. I'm into like the 100 and something.
Right.
Anyway, once you get into these things, it's amazing. It's super neat to see how, well, for ARs, like their life story.
Yeah. I go for that stuff, man. I have
comes
so
along.
I That's my thing. I love the history of them and all the little things that you never hear about, and the people. There's so many people involved in design that you never hear about, but design some really important stuff, and how they move from one company. All that stuff fascinates me. So that's why I'm a dork.
Yeah,
That's why I
that'll
like
be
all these books.
that's the next piece. So this other stuff has been, because I started and I had to finish. But as I've discovered this, like this is definitely doable. Like this is 130. If I go to the inside back cover, this is 130. So I'm that close. I mean, I don't have to do cartoons or nothing. It's just logos and shit. There might be an individual or two, but yeah, I'm looking at, it's going to be pretty neat to like show the relationships and the I guess how the like individual, like these are going to be points with some interaction between them, but then the individuals that weave between them is the interesting shit. Like all of these guys, like this Mossberg guy, started in Sweden, came to the United States when he was 20,
He
worked for
invented-
Ivor Johnson, then he worked for this other Stevens thing, then he worked for Stevens, then he worked for Marlin. So he works for like
he
three
went to-
gun companies by the time he's 30. Then he works to Marlin. Then he starts with his own thing when he's 53 years old, starts Mossberg. And then he starts creating his own guns. So yeah,
I
this
think
guy.
he invented the transfer bar safety too, I think, or he was the first one to patent it, I think.
Well, that's the thing, is what I've been able to discover is just like barely touching the surface. And then I get to the collections. So you get out of here and over
Yeah.
to the museums.
Yeah.
And this, so one of the I started out this whole thing with museums pretty much. So when you get over here to the museums, I have the ones that I've been to. That's pretty much this list,
All right.
except for the ones that I couldn't get into that I put in here, like the ATF collection.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, those are all the ones I've been to. But then I started putting in all the ones that exist down here. And as I started putting in all the ones that exist, you start figuring out that like this guy here, no, something looks like that. Anyway, this one collection from like Pennsylvania or someplace. Why can't I see it? Oh, I'm going the wrong way. This is old. Okay, so yeah, this is old. No. This has to be old up here. This is old. So it's not that one. There was this this one. So this guy, I think it's this guy. So I'm going to use this as an example. I think it's this guy. This is just some old guy who back in the day, I think his deal was, no, this is him. I don't know. He was like an Amish or something. And his dad is like, I don't want you buying guns because we're Amish.
Right.
So he's like, well, can I buy black powder guns? He's like, well, that doesn't count because it's not a gun. So he's like, great. So he starts buying these guns because it's the only thing he can buy. It's the only thing his dad will let him. And he ends up having like the largest collection of all Kentucky rifles. So, the whole deal about Kentucky rifles is, they're being made by individual dudes and we need to supply like a whole country's armory. So, everybody pitches in and starts making them. So everybody's making their own. There's like 1 billion to collect. There's like hundreds and thousands of builders. So all different reasons to collect them. And there's like, it's like AKs or something, except worse. So this guy's got this massive collection just because he thought they were cool. And then at some point, I think he sticks them into a museum. And then at some point he dies. And then somebody else buys his collection. And now it goes to here. And then it was here. And then it was in Florida. So I start seeing how these collections are bouncing around. So yeah, there's just so many little interconnectivities and stuff that I think this would be really neat to see all this stuff, especially with that kind of software that you get where you can zoom in and zoom out, like what I'm doing here,
Right.
in software, so that I can start to put the relationships in, and then
You can map it out. You can map it out really, really well.
just to map it. Like I'll let somebody else, because I know that people have already done like all the details here and all the details here. I just want to make a map that shows where the details are in relationship to each other. And now if you want to go get the details, go get them from somebody who cares about that, because I don't really necessarily care about a Kentucky rifle, but I certainly think it's interesting that they're so important to,
It
you know,
would
like
look,
the Kentucky rifle let us win the war.
it would probably look like when you see those long family tree things, you know, and they start getting mixed with,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, yeah, that's pretty
It's
cool.
some sort of 3-dimensional or something. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully that'll be pretty neat. I bought some software that lets me do this. What I used to cost it was like 160 a year, and then I think they went up.
Damn.
I was like, "What are you making me pay for this? Like, I'm a giant YouTube channel. You should give me this,
Yeah.
and then I will tell people that I'm using it or something."
Use your software.
And I'm not like good at it, and they're French, so I was like not that interested. But you know, I decided to try throwing my weight around, and they were like, "Oh, here's a $5 discount code or something." I'm like, $160 software. So I was like, "How about fuck you?" And I quit using that software, and then I've just been suffering, and I almost went back to using it again, but it's fucking French, and it costs money, and I already had tried, you know.
What do they call like this type of software? What do they call it? Like, you know, generic
Usually whiteboard software.
whiteboard. Okay.
Or yeah, I think they just call it whiteboard. I don't know, but
What do they call those flow chart? Is like that a flow chart?
well, no, it's the idea that you can do animation where you can zoom in. It's like you've got this area and you can lay stuff out and then you can go back. So unlike a cartoon where, you know, I'm drawing
one way, yeah,
strip and I got to create all this stuff, I can just start laying stuff down, laying stuff down, laying stuff down, laying stuff down, and then just zoom out and it's all still there. It's really, really neat software. So long story short is I found it for like $60 or some fucking $40 or $60 for this like cheap version that literally does everything I needed it to do. And all the garbage, like nobody, when they get this software, nobody has their own pile of cartoons. So they try to sell you cartoon figures all the time so that you've got a little cartoon figure in your video.
All these little add-ons.
Yeah, I don't need your little cartoon. So for me, I bought the software minus all the add-on garbage that I don't want. And I should be able to, once I have some time to work on it. And if you've been watching, we had a big milestone on the 2A patch batch today. I finally got to pay the big bill, you know, because it's been all this time.
Oh, yeah. I saw it.
Everything cost.
I saw
I had no idea.
I saw the
I've been
announcement.
biting my nails for 2 months how much everything's going to cost. It maxed out. Like it went a little bit higher than I thought, but at least it didn't go way over. You know, like that was a potential. Like it could have gone way over. So anyway, now that I can breathe a little easier, and it's going to be getting nicer temperature. I got this giant monitor that I'm fiddling with right now. Like I can't wait to be able to sink my teeth into what I've learned from this stuff, and then, you know, I've already got all of this. Half of the battle is getting all these fucking icons to be consistent, you know, to look right. But that part's neat too. When you start to, these are all chronological right here. So now I'm obviously picking new icons, but you can kind of tell how logos.
Yeah, you can you know who they are. Yeah, you know who they are.
Well, but I'm saying like how they evolve, like how they.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Style of them or something. Yeah. It's a little different because I'm picking, you know, I'm hand picking those. But I've seen it in other things. Like if I go to the gun rights thing, you can kind of tell too how the style or the, like, I don't know what to call it, like the feel. Yeah, they kind of change. And then as you know, before back in the day, this was like, you know, they carved it out of wood or something, or I don't know what the fuck they did, painted it or something. And then you probably get to where, oh, we can make that out of metal, or like, you know, we can do that cheaper. And then there's plastic, and now it's fucking on a computer. And yeah, logos are totally different now. Or like, I want to put it on a T-shirt or something. Anyways, that kind of stuff is neat. And then, well, this year, you know, this is this, just with some time. So now I'm going to be able to do that with, I'm going to do this with training, with guns, with ammo. I care about ammo. Like all this other stuff is interesting, but I can't wait to do this with ammo. Yeah. You know, it all starts with 22 short, and that's the granddaddy of all bullets. And as I've been digging into this, like I forget who was talking about reloading today, but if you go over to Minuteman and I put a whole section here for ammunition, because this is interesting as shit too. Like, first off, you got Winchester, there was the Volcanic, and then there's the Winchester. It ain't like somebody else made 45 Colt and threw it at them.
Was it Winchester or Smith and Wesson? The Wesson guys that made the.
Well, I mean, Smith and Wesson made the Volcanic, but then they sold it to Winchester. So when Winchester went to make the next rifle and the next rifle, the problem with the Volcanic was its wimpy ass 9mm bullet. So they had to make a new ammo. So I'm just saying, like, back in the day, if you wanted new ammo, well, you made your own fucking new ammo.
Right.
So Winchester, Savage, Western, these people are making their own ammo. Like, they're making the gun and then they're in the store and making the ammo. Well, we just have no choice. There's no other ammo manufacturers back in the old days. So like Remington and shit, like when it went from black powder, yeah, anybody can make a ball. But as soon as it's ammo, like, well, there was no ammo companies. So it's super interesting. First, you got your rifle companies that just have to make their own ammo. And then you got wars. There's wars in this whole thing.
Yeah.
So Civil War, World War II, all these fucking wars we don't even think about because we're too stupid to learn all the wars.
I never even thought about that.
Badass wars, right? The Bannerman War is the War of 1812. Nobody even knows about, or the Spanish-American War. Nobody even thinks about those wars, but they invented surplus stores. So
Bannerman was a huge.
You get the or the rifle manufacturers having to create their own ammo, and then you get the war, right? So the wars happen, and they basically, what's the government going to do? They're like, well, there's people, we're capitalists. They're already out there making ammo. So they go up to this one and they say, was it this one? One of these ones, they say, hey, you know what? You're an ammo company. Do you mind if you just go over, maybe it's Federal. So they go up to Federal, who's just some guy making bullets, right? And they're like, hey, can you take $87 million and go build an ordnance factory for us? So Federal was minding his business, kind of hand reloading one day. And then the government is like, hey, we're about to go to war. Can you build this ammo factory for us? So then these ammo factories get made, and there's no difference between ammo and guns. People would go work in an ammo factory and be like, fuck this, I can do this better, and make their own. Or they would be like, oh, I can make a better caliber than that. But you get into like Speer and CCI are brothers. Speer starts selling ammo because during World War II, he's bitching because there's no ammo. So he wants to go shooting during World War II. All the ammo's going to the war. He's like, well, I can't go shooting. So he starts reloading for himself. And then his brother comes along a couple years later and is like, oh, that brother's making a shit ton of money. So he's making the bullets. I'm going to make the primers. So that's a whole story. And then you get this motherfucker who just made all the fucking money. Holy shit. This guy buys Western, makes all the Mosin Nagants or something, buys like all the chemicals in the world, creates bleach or some shit. This guy's got all the money. And then later on, he buys all the gun companies.
Yeah, and I know I have one of the history of American cartridges, big reference. I forget the author's name, but Orland, man, they were like the one, and
they owned it all. Like if you needed gunpowder, well, guess what? Gunpowder
you were getting it from Orland. Yeah,
it ain't made out of wishes. It's made out of products that they pull out of the ground. Like they had it from basically they were minding their business, and a bunch of other companies were mean to them. And they're like, well, let's just stop that from happening. So they just bought every industry that was necessary to make ammo, and they just started making money everywhere. There's like companies that fail, and then there's companies that just don't.
when you first started talking about this, like the people from going from, black powder to cartridges, I never had thought of that. Hey, there wasn't an ammunition company that you could just and I had never crossed my mind of like, how the hell did they do that?
That's why Winchester ammo was Winchester ammo.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Then you get the guys who, after World War II, now there's a shit ton of ammo, right?
Surplus.
So unlike this guy who's like, oh, there's not enough ammo because everybody's shooting Nazis with it. These guys are like, oh, there's a ton of ammo, but it's shitty, and we want I think Nosler went up and shot an elk with some sort of like 30-06 or something, and he's like, that just knocked the elk over, and I didn't kill it. So they started making better bullets to shove into World War II bullets or ammo.
I think in some of my reloading manuals, they have that story. Everyone says, I tried to shoot something and the bullet sucked, so I made my own.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so it's super interesting. And then, of course, yeah, everybody's got their own stories. And now it's just going to change, because all this stuff was pre, sharing plans online and having a 3D printer and crazy laws changing all the time. So anyway, I can't wait to get in and start digging in.
Man, it would be so awesome if they had something, and I know it's probably not going to happen soon, but like you could print your cases for your ammo. Oh my God, and do it fast. Jeez.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I know that one of them is doing a thing where you come up with a load and tell them, and they'll just make your ammo for you. Like you tell them the bullet and the stuff, but that's saying it to like Federal or whoever. Saying, this is what I want, and they give you 12 boxes or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard of that before. Just like in the early day or in the old days of reloading, like if you made a Wildcat, then a company would make you the dies and you'd pay them and they do that, and now they're making you the ammo if you give them the specs. That's pretty cool.
Now I don't know about. I thought you were going to say head stamp because that would.
No. The die.
I would imagine eventually, the process. Well, I don't know. Here's the thing. I've seen now Hornet. I went to Hornady's plant right on the trip up to Chicago that year, and I was super impressed that they had all these machines from World War II. They're like, oh, all these machines that are making ammo right here were made to make ammo in World War II. Like they were specifically built to make ammo for World War II, and now we have them. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Until now, I figured out they just took them from like a building across the street. Like they literally in the same town that armory was in. So it's not like they went out and found them. They just bought them, whenever they sold them. And then they refigured them. So, if it was making carbine ammo, now it's making 357.
They were still using them too?
Yeah, that's the 100%. Everything that comes out of Hornady is made on machines that made the ammo from World War II.
Oh,
like when you walk, they wouldn't let me film or nothing, but you can go see video of what it looks like in there. They let other people film in there.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, like American Rifleman and stuff like that. Yeah.
Everything, I think, actually, except for like maybe a couple of things that are obviously new, but pretty much the stuff that does the lead, the stuff that does the, there's like the parts you have to extrude the case, and all that. Like all those machines are older than fuck, and they're all old. So yeah, I'm guessing that's all from World War II.
The punch and dies to make. Yeah, that's pretty. I didn't know that.
The like reloaders don't look like a regular reloader. They're straight, and they've kind of got like glass walls on them.
Yeah, I've seen them.
See what's happening, but they're definitely as big as a lathe or something. They're like giant equipment. They had dozens of them. They had a section of the building that was about as big as a gun shop would be, like a normal sized gun shop in a town. And that was just the maintenance area for the World War II machines. He's like, this area is just, we have a crew of guys that just make sure these machines never fail. Right. But they've been using these machines 24/7 since World War II. I mean, come on, these machines are going to last forever.
Yeah, but I've seen, like you were talking about their presses. It's like a single file line, and they just go, and each time a tool comes and does the next step. I've seen those videos. It's pretty cool.
I mean, they're literally like you would expect war production. Just a bullet keeps dropping out one end, and all kinds of tubes come into it, and bullets just keep falling out.
I can imagine even now with all the stuff going on, they're just. I mean, they can't make them any faster. I guess they could only add more machines.
Well, they can't even add machines because they're using machines from World War II. All they can do is turn them on. But once they've reached all the machines, then that's all there is. They can't make a machine.
I guess like when all these companies, whoever they are, Federal, whatever, I guess if they need something new and nothing, I guess they make it themselves.
They'd have to go to like Dillon or get some little lightweight wimpy machine. These machines are massive, heavyweight, giant machines, right?
Right.
So anything I've seen a place in New Mexico that had, let me try to think, like a dozen, like the giant room around the perimeter was all these Dillons with robots. So they were just in there going chick, 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 doing their thing. And they had like a door in the corner, how these corner doors open like a conference room sometimes. They had like this door open in the corner. They could just stand at their cash register and watch all the robots doing their thing. And that's how their reloading setup was. But I thought that was amazing. Like I was like, holy shit, this is cool. Like that's some hardcore. Like that's like having Foos times 12. Like, robots just keep machine. But that was like an erector set compared to what Hornady's got going.
Right.
Hornady's got
Every now and then I'm going because I like you, I love ammo and I collect and all stuff like that. And every now on Gunbroker you see some company that either going out of business or selling some of they call it commercial reloading equipment,
Yeah.
And they almost say, they were made specifically for us, and some you see that are like, they're doing stuff that they've made for mass production, but then some of the stuff is like you need an 18-wheeler and freight and shipping because the thing weighs as much as a house or something like that. And
that's the thing. So you figure, I guess back during, I was looking at New Jersey's been one of the states that bothers me because I don't want to. I know a lot of stuff happened in New Jersey, but it's not a lot of companies. It's a lot of history. It's like nothing current. It's all old. But Picatinny Arsenal, right? Picatinny is from there, where we get the Picatinny
rail. Yeah.
So I know that stuff has happened in New Jersey. So that's where I found out that I guess starting with the Civil War, we had a bunch of ammo. Because of the country or whatever, we just had a bunch of ammo. But then the Civil War started, and all of a sudden the fucking Confederates had a bunch of ammo. So the country was like, well, we got to store our ammo in more than one spot because of that. So they started, right after the Civil War, storing ammo all the fuck over everywhere. So that factory that I'm talking about in Nebraska was like one of however many factories. So that means that, they probably weren't all doing the same thing for sure. And they had to do, 20 millimeter. I'm sure some of them were doing way bigger ammo than regular ammo. But anyway, there had to be a lot of those machines going out to a lot of companies, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that somebody like a CCI came along and said, hey, you know what? Why don't we just start buying them all? Yeah. And they probably did. But I'm sure there's, even though CCI could come in and buy 10, there's probably somebody that could come in and buy 1 or 2.
Yeah. Well, isn't Lake City part of CCI and Federal? Like it's their military business, Lake City.
I don't know that one specifically. I know that Federal was like, hey, you're making ammo so good, make it for World War II. Like they were asked to do it because they did so good making ammo before that. But then I think they walked away. Like after the war, they, okay, now I'm Federal again over here and our contract is done. There's your ordnance plant. But that's the Twin City ordnance plant. And
so it says, so this one says Lake City Army Ammunition Plant was U.S. government owned, contractor operated, that was established by Remington Arms in 1941.
Remington. Okay, so I don't have Remington as a gun or an ammo thing. I need to change that. So, because Remington is obviously our oldest gun manufacturer, they had the same problem as everybody else. And obviously, there's Remington ammo.
Since
I didn't get ammo in there yet. So
it was run by Remington until 1985, and then Olin took it over in 1985, and in 2001, ATK Alliant took it over.
Oh, so I need to put ATK in here still.
Orbital ATK is the parent company of Alliant. ATK.
Oh, ATK owns Olin? I thought Olin was the big one.
No. So it's Orbital. It's called Orbital ATK. The space company is the company that owns ATK that's now running Lake City.
Oh, okay.
That's an Orbital. Sorry.
Yeah, so I saw ATK yesterday or something, and I was like, I had enough in here. I'm sick of them. So I didn't put it in here. But yeah, whenever I get in here and now that I'm past the book or whatever, and I start thinking about those posters or whatever, because I'm thinking of making some posters.
That would be cool. I'd definitely take some of those if you make those.
Like how there's bullet posters that have all the cartridges?
Yeah, I love those things.
Something that you just put up in a gun shop or in a wall in a shop, and then it's just reference. You can kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, those are the two. Like, okay, Mossberg worked with them and he didn't work with them or something, just to kind of keep things straight.
That would
there's a lot of neat stuff.
You make those, I would definitely buy them because that would fascinate the hell out of me. That's cool. That's a neat idea. Because those bullet posters to me are cool, just like you said, like it's a small reference. But having the posters with like that would be awesome. But I'm an ammo nerd and gun nerd, so you know I like that stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to building it because, like I said, I'm just barely scratched the surface with this kind of stage of it, and I'm not looking forward to, reading all kinds of books or anything. But I'm thinking I can probably get some people on who know stuff and can help us. Now that we've got some of the pieces, they can help us start arranging them so that they make some sense and fill in some of the gaps. And then what I want to do is, let's say, create a framework and then link to the people who know what they're talking about to fill in all the gaps. So instead of me trying to become an expert on everything, I just want to help give people a perspective and then focus them in on the people who are the experts and let them take it from there. Because I don't need to know everything about a Kentucky rifle in order to tell you to go talk to the guy who knows about everything.
Right. No, that makes sense, and it seems to me like that would be the right way to do it.
Plus, it's neat because I just keep finding interesting shit that, like I just dug in. I wasn't going to do this whole thing without my favorite gun is the little tiny.
Oh yes.
Things that the guy made out of 22s.
Yeah, the ATF hated those for some reason.
Well, it's because they couldn't tell if it was a pistol or a rifle because it's a little tiny barrel.
So short.
Not really a pistol either. It's not really a. Well, it doesn't meet the definition of a pistol because it doesn't have a what do you call it? Grip. But it does. But it doesn't. You know what I mean? So they could never tell. But the thing is, the guy made them in semi-auto, but he made them in full auto. That was the point. So when he started in 1983, he started making them, and they were full auto, right? You could make them full auto.
And then 86 happened.
And then 86 happens, and he says, well, fuck. So he quits making them, and he turns into Tippmann paintball. And he literally changes the game on paintball. I haven't even dug into that because I don't care about paintball.
Yeah.
But then the good news is that in 2015, probably the guy's kid, I haven't figured it out yet, started Tippmann Armory, and they did that.
The Gatling,
Gatling gun thing.
I want one of those so bad.
That's the same fucking company. So I think it's just his kid. But yeah, that's the kind of shit that, that's the side tangent or whatever. But anyway, that goes from Tippmann selling the company in 86. He stops doing it and goes into paintballs. But then some guy from Illinois buys all his stuff. And then some guy from Wisconsin, I guess I didn't link to it, but the guy from Lakeside, this guy in Wisconsin comes along and buys all his parts and still makes them for a little while. So that company, Tippmann, even though he quit doing them in 86, they lasted until 2000 something being made. And I kept seeing them at fucking SARS show every year. So they've been driving me nuts. I see them in Arizona all the time.
I saw one at a range in Houston a long time. I mean, this was probably late 90s. And I was in love. I can't remember if it was 22 or 22 mag, but I was in love with that thing. It's especially with how cheap fire ammo was at the time, and oh my God, I love that one of those things. And then that Gatling gun they make now, that you're talking about.
I like that, but that thing is bigger. And it's not
just to me, just the novelty of having a Gatling gun, you can do like that. But it's so expensive. It's like $5,000 or something.
That's the thing. It's $5,000. Yeah. Otherwise, it's amazing, and they should make that thing at fucking 45, and you wouldn't have riots anymore. Literally, not have riots anymore.
Man,
nobody's scared.
If they can come, if I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but if they can make something like that come out at 1,500, maybe even two, I don't know, but 1,500. Oh my God, be at 5,000. It's just, ugh.
Then that sounds like this guy who made the Auto Mag.
Oh
and
yeah.
He's like, oh no, we can make it. They say he lost $1,000 per gun or something. Like the guns he sold them for $200. They cost $1,200 to make.
Damn. Well, you're just trying to get them so people will start see them and buy them and all that, trying to get them out there.
I don't want to act like I know the story, but yeah, there must have been some to that. But basically, somebody came in and was like, oh no. And then they had a big fight, and then of course it failed. And then if you look at, you go fast forward to just the other year at SHOT Show, 3 years ago, I think they had them at SHOT Show, and I guess I didn't write it all in here. But if you go to their website and look, they're going to say the reason the first company failed is because they tried to make these as production guns. These need to be made as one at a time, and that's how we're going to make them.
They're going to be hyper expensive.
Well, yeah, instead of being $200, they're going to cost you the $1,200, but they don't have to try to make a $1,200 gun for $200. They can make a $1,200 gun for $1,200 the way it's supposed to be. And I think that's the problem from right off the bat. The guy he basically made an M16 into a pistol in a cool way, like a 1911. But then, he just could not at the time, 70s or ever, make that gun for less than people could pay for it. So he constantly had to fight with the other people in the company, like, no, let's make that cheaper. No, let's make that cheaper. And then the gun ended up not being as good a gun as it could have been, as it should have been.
And so this new company, you said they're were you saying $1,200 because that's what they said, or were you just giving an example? Because that sounds
no, that's
cheap.
totally off the top of my head. Yeah, I have no idea. I forgot. They told me at SHOT Show, and it was way the fuck more than I would ever pay for a gun.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying their concept is we're gonna price them for one at a time. Like, you buy this gun because you're buying an auto mag. You're not buying this gun because you need a gun.
Yeah, it's going to be $5,000. It seems like $5,000 is the magic number for those companies.
No, it could be. It was a lot of money, but it's the kind of an auto mag. Come on. And if the thing is, if you want an auto mag, great. But if you want an auto mag, you're going to pay a lot of money for something that doesn't work that good. So if you're going to pay a lot of money, you might as well have it made by somebody who appreciates it and makes it right. And that's kind of neat. So you've got that going on with auto mag. You got that going on with the Derringers to some extent. I'm trying to think. There's a couple of other guns that's something that started or kind of had fits and starts back in the day, and then somebody came along and appreciated it. Oh, who else is one we were just talking about? This Tipman Armory. So if you look at their story on their website, this Tipman Armory website, it'll say, back in the day, we were making the miniatures, and then because of the 1986, we quit, and then we changed the game on paintball, and we've been doing that for a long time. But then it says something like, Bob came over and said, hey, wouldn't this gun be cool if we made it? And I said, yeah, we should make that gun in the United States. So now we're making it. And they're making I guess right here, these 3 different rolling blocks, but like a rolling block in 357 Magnum. Like, you're not going to find a rolling block in a regular caliber. You're going to find a rolling block in some weird old caliber, right?
45, 110, 90, 80, something like that.
Yeah, so you got this kind of stuff that's coming up. Like, does anybody need this? No. Is it neat? Yeah, it's fucking neat. I guess you need it for SAS, for single action shooting, where if you want to shoot the way you're supposed to, but actually use a caliber that's possible to go to the store and buy, then that's what these are for. But otherwise, it's just somebody who's like, I think their thing is good enough for the mantle, but you can take it to the range or something like that. Good enough for the mantle, but it doesn't have to stay there, or something like that. So they're making a nice looking gun that's high quality, mainly because they can, and because they got nothing else to do, because they wanted that gun to exist. And that, I'm looking forward to that. Like,
that's pretty cool.
That gun existed. It's all they did. And it's like the Shiloh companies, the company.
Yeah, Shiloh Sharps,
Like the Remington is the first gun company. Shiloh, or Sharps, I guess, is the second gun company. So, from the 1850s and shit, they're basically first starting to build. The Sharps wasn't even a fucking bullet. It was that fucking paper towel around a fucking stick. And they jammed that in there and called it a bullet. So, those were just, you call it a sharpshooter because of sharps, right? That was the first gun that actually was super accurate at super distance. So people have an appreciation for it. And because there's only so many in existence, I forget who, at some point, one of these companies in here, and it was like Kimber or somebody like that.
Shiloh rifle? Was it Shiloh?
Well, Shiloh is one of them. But basically, these are people that were like, we should make that gun that was awesome, except make it now with like real machinery and stuff. So these people made it
There's another one I think is called Montana
existed.
Montana Arms or something. I remember seeing several of these classy companies making.
Well, Montana Rifle comes from Kimber, and they're like the people that worked at Kimber. And
Yeah.
I got hiccups. Their thing is like a $5,000 gun that you got to wait 5 years for.
Oh yeah, never
Like,
mind. Yeah.
They're only making a few. I think a lot of these sharps are like that though, because that's the way that I guess these guns are so accurate because you have to fuck with them or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the thing. You get some people who are like, I want to build to that model or that spec. Like they could build any gun. They want to build that spec. They want that gun, but then we're going to build it in such a way that you're going to pay $5,000 for one rifle. So that immediately eliminates your market.
The mass market. Yeah, the mass market.
And you get this guy who's not quite mass market, but he's also, I'm just going to do it because I can do it. So anyway, you get a spread of people that are interested in something either because they're passionate or because it's a passing interest. And as we get more ability to react to a passing interest, I guess that's the way to say it. And at the same time, we've got more potential for somebody who is making something specific with like a passion, more potential for them to reach, a greater audience. I think we're going to just see more and more and more. Like it's just going to be neater and neater.
Hopefully, this whole stupid craze right now probably put everything on hold so people can build. Even I don't know what everyone's going to want to catch up or just make what sells. I guess I don't know.
Well, that's the thing too. Is as you get more diverse variety at the store to choose from, then you can't just make bologna sandwiches, right? Bologna sandwiches, and then keep making bologna sandwiches. Like as soon as people figure out they can eat ham and cheese or something, they're gonna expect something different at the store. So there's more opportunity for somebody who's new when there's so many other new people. But then at the same time, you can't be another weird sausage because at some point people just don't give a shit. Like either give me a ham or not ham, but I don't really care what the other option is. But I don't know. We'll see. There's also a shit ton more gun owners, right? But here's the other thing. The reason that I guess I closed it now. The reason that I have the much respect as I do, and I have a whole page dedicated to the DC project, is because we're done. Like old white dudes, we didn't do a good job, or we have not, satisfied. We still have an NFA. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we basically kept the NRA in business, doing the shit.
No, we were too oblivious. We allowed too much shit to just happen on our watch, and there's nothing. We're not doing anything about keeping it. So I think that when these chicks, look at how many of these chicks are kicking ass.
Yeah.
There's mom and daughter teams here. Each one of these gray lines, and keep in mind, like this one is 5 years, right? This one is 5 years. Like, some of these gray lines represent 5 different trips to DC. But this is all these individual chicks got off their ass and spent their own money to go to DC and to tell our fucking dumbass politicians to shut the fuck up. Yeah. And they're not waiting around for some dude to tell them or mansplain to them. And when they're these chicks, I'm just saying, when these chicks get their second or third or fourth gun, it ain't going to be from any of the factories that used to, they're going to be buying weird guns, what we consider dumb, at least what I consider dumb. They're going to be buying some weird guns.
Any of these girls that went on that trip have, with all what they did, on that rally, they've done more than I've done. I was a member of the NRA, I support with money, but they all showed up and started getting attention. And so
and showed up at a time and in the right time and place, right? Showed up and talked to the right people. So yeah, exactly. Like they're just doing it. And they're inspirational. Like think about the little girls.
Yeah.
Back in the day, when all of these chicks were young, who did they look up to? They had Annie Oakley or something.
Yeah, nobody.
Nothing. Yeah, like the chick from Terminator, maybe?
Yeah. Fictional characters. They didn't have real people.
Yeah, each one of these chicks now is inspiring a bunch of new ones. So yeah, we're going to have a whole different 2A in a bit.
Yeah, and that's
And,
what I like. I support that. That's Sloan, Carrie Sloan, because
yeah,
she goes,
she's totally different too. Yeah,
yeah,
she's coming at it in a whole different way, really.
and yeah, so that's why I support those people and all that because they are doing it, and
And I don't even think when I don't know, obviously this is, I know a couple of names on here and I know even fewer of those actual names like in real life. So, it's not like I'm that incited about this, but as I've been picking through them and trying to find them, some of these are competitive shooters, but not that, very few of them are hunters. There are some hunters in here, but very few of them are hunters. And like I say, I don't really suspect many of them are competitive shooters. I know some of them are. Obviously, Diana is. She started the whole thing, but because she didn't exclusively go to like the gun clubs, these aren't all gun chicks. Is what I'm getting at. These are chicks that are more like rights and more like whatever reason they're into this. But anyway, all I'm getting at is it's not going to just be a bunch of like Mossberg shotgun sales. This represents just a heck of a lot of diversity.
yeah, I
And they're
think
going to hopefully get interested in weird, dumb recreational guns too, right? Like hopefully we'll see some reckless spending.
I think the majority, and this is just my perspective, I think the majority of them got into it, for self-defense and their rights, and whether they were victims of something already or something like that. But then once they they get into that, like you said, they're going to start wanting to do, well, I just want to get a fun gun or something I like, and they're going to end up buying all that different stuff that may not be practical, or may not be cool, like to you and me, but to them, it's going to be like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. What the hell? They're not going to care about if something looks sort of like a gun from World War II. Probably, they're going to have a totally different set of criteria.
And 1911 will be like an old cowboy gun to them.
Well, just I can't even imagine. Plus, hopefully they'll just rip. They got the potential at least to rip down that NFA because they've got insight and ability. Well, they've got insight and ability to express that the NFA doesn't stop crime. It doesn't prevent people from pursuing crime. It doesn't prevent violence. What it does prevent is innovation and development, which as capitalists, none of us like to see stuff hinder for no reason. I mean, if it has a good reason, then we accept hindrance or infringement, but we don't need it. But then when you've got the just smaller framed individuals, which females have, it's more, humans in that range. But then you got the youngins. So when you have to, the Smith, what is it? The
easy.
Well, no, I'm saying the phrase where whatever, something about Colt made him equal.
God created man, Samuel Colt made him equal.
Yeah, that whole concept is the idea that a gun is a universal equalizer where it allows an individual to take control of more than one individual. So anyway, you've got what's the word? The other word, you've got leverage or something, force leveraging or something. So anyway, that concept of protecting a child, it's just without that insight, without the ability to understand that a gun is a bad thing when a bad guy has it. But when a mom has a gun and 6 kids, or a gun and 3 kids, or a gun and 1 kid, she's now more capable than a mom without that gun. And that
she's a grizzly bear protecting her cubs.
Well, she's got the potential to be. And when there's that unknown, when a bad guy has to think to himself, it's possible that anybody out here now could have a lethal means to protect themselves. There's less incentive to be a bad guy. So while, anyway, they're just going to be able to bring all these different arguments, all these different perspectives to, and then I guess I was just going to say old people. So when we're talking about specifically the NFA, no one is, to my satisfaction, no one has petitioned for the elimination of the NFA based on ability. Once you have any kind of handicap card, once you have any kind of disability, the NFA should no longer apply to you. The things that make a gun, by definition, able to be acquired without registration, make it big, make it awkward, make it large, make it
unusable for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. So the NFA is literally a barrier to ability, and that's literally illegal. So and all it is bringing that message to the representatives whose job is to listen to us. So we've already got the correct position. We've now got the voice. The females are the voice, and they've got a number of voices. They're going to make those changes, and once they start making changes, you think they're going to be like, "Oh, well, that's enough. We're done." No, they're going to fucking run with it. So I could see the end of the NFA because of this kind of stuff.
I wish. Another thing they go on, especially with all the kids, the young kids getting into it, is the whole suppressor thing, saving their hearing if they're going to be exposed to it young. You know, to me, it is so messed up that in Britain you can buy a suppressor off the shelf. They kind of expect you to be polite and to be safe with your hearing. And here, my problem with the
time that we grew up, we barely got all our experience with suppressors from movies because no one until the middle of the 2000s, most people never even saw a real live suppressor. Now they're fairly commonplace. So that means that the people who are going to firearms training in the last 5 years have gone to firearms training with a suppressor being there. And we went to firearms training, did all of our initial experience with a suppressor barely being a fictitious thing that James Bond would use and make your gun quiet. But no one really had one ever. And so, that's just going to change things. There's no way that you're going to have a suppressor laying on a table right here, and then you're going to tell a mom she can't put that on her fucking gun and keep her kids' ears happy because of some fucking rule that some dumbass wrote in 1934 to manipulate people.
And if that mom shoots a rifle inside the hallway at somebody, she's going to ring her bell so bad.
And everybody knows that shit. It's not like oh, well, theoretically. No, you can go watch a YouTube video and see the difference. So there's no way that stuff is going to last with awareness. And the awareness isn't like a whole bunch of more old fat white guys know about it. The cat's out of the bag. Everybody is aware of this stuff now. And
I hope you're right, man, because the NFA, I told I have a 7-year-old, and I try to explain to him as much as I can that the basics of and he as a 7-year-old goes, but why would they do that? Like for the rifle stocks, the braces, the stocks, the whole short barrel thing, the pistol thing. He's like, that doesn't make any sense. He's 7. And even he knows what an idiotic, useless mess the NFA is at the most basic level.
And like I say, when out, what are you saying? Like the dark in the cover of night, it can be weird and dumb, and we can complain to ourselves at gun shows all day and night, And now it's not that anymore. Now it's an embarrassing, poorly written infringement that is in the way of a whole bunch of people. And the short stuff, you've got people that don't understand that there's going to be a whole wave, I bet, of people. That'll be one of the anti-waves here, is that people are going to not understand that there's a difference between an AR pistol and a short barrel rifle. And that's going to either become an issue or it's going to become an issue to the wrong person. And they're going to go, nope, like you can't continue to suggest that there's any difference between this and this. When did the braces come on the scene? I should put that in here, actually.
Was it 2013, 2012?
I was going to say, no, it wasn't that early. I think it was 14. Because were the braces 13? I guess it could have been 13, and then it got shit canned because of, I don't really remember, but it's not that long. So the braces, though, have been, well, I mean, I shouldn't say it that way. It hasn't been that long in the grand scheme of things, but as far as time on the clock, it's been a long time. It's been many, many, many years. So if the fact is that short rifles are favored by criminals, like a rifle that can fit under your trench coat, because so many criminals wear trench coats.
Right.
But that was the idea, is that if you had a rifle that could fit into your raincoat, you'd cause chaos.
You could.
Now that there's AR pistols that can legally go into your clothing, and that's obviously favored by criminals, then of course we'd see consequences. The problem is that they have to, yell and scream every time an AR pistol or an AK pistol is ever used, because it just isn't that practical.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be really, really, really tough for the suppressors to stand up as a safety device that's being withheld, and then the short stuff, because again, small frames in children. And I can say all day and night that kids should be able to shoot, but when a mom tells a representative that their kids, are going to be able to shoot, and you're sick of your kids being felons every time they shoot because of your stupid ass laws, yeah, they're going to change some shit. And then you get to the AOWs, and there's no reason that
Those
a gun.
are even worse. Those are ignorant.
There should be a weird looking bracelet. There should be some sort of a belt that can be put on for an old person. There should be, there should not be infringements on innovation. We don't live in, the olden times. Like, we got 3D printers and we've got all kinds of potential. So an old person or somebody with a missing limb or something should be able to have a firearm that looks like whatever the heck they might want it to look like. And if it needs to fit into something, then, whatever. So again, I think once you get some ladies that are like, you know what, I want to be able to carry a gun that looks like lipstick, or I want a gun that looks like a pin on my blouse or whatever.
I want to be able to hide a gun in my pen, even if it doesn't fold, the whole.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why shouldn't women be able to have pen guns and walk through a parking lot with a pen? As long as, and I don't want to see the stifling of pen gun technology to where basically the only pen guns we have are from 1934, for crying out loud. It's like the 1911 of pen guns, because nobody's ever bothered to develop them.
Yeah,
I
have one of those.
Pen guns be? But how amazing could they be if they were able to develop them? Now that we've got computers and engineers, it's ridiculous. We've got new technologies. We've got aluminum and titanium.
Titanium, yeah, that'd be the big one, or the even Smith and Wesson with the scandium stuff, or whatever they call it.
So we could have all kinds of crazy. We could have like some kind of bracelet that shoots 2 rounds, and then again, why should a bad guy get to have the advantage of the good guy having to wear the gun in a way, or have a thing that looks like no. If a female says, the bad guy, doom on the bad guy, and I don't want to get raped, and I also don't want to have to carry around like a holster and a dumbass looking gun when I'm doing whatever I want to do with my life, and I instead want to have a bracelet that can discharge 3 45 ACP rounds out of it, then why should she not be able to do that? We have some stupid archaic law. So anyway, I think the NFA is...
Imagine having an actual cell phone that works, that can have a firearm in it.
Yeah, no, seriously, exactly. And you could have multiple rounds. There's plenty of room in a cell phone. You get into destructive devices, and you got the 37 millimeter projectiles and the tennis ball guns and the cans. Those are recreationally fun as hell.
Yep, I have one.
Deploy like something with a firework or some sort of a drone with a parachute. Yep. Like they are preventing just some recreation fun.
Yep, I have a Colt. I have the Colt M203 with the 37 millimeter. And
so I could see them getting attacked on the NFA in multiple ways. And the best part is when you get rid of the NFA, the 68 falls apart too, because once you acknowledge that, okay, we've prevented things since 1934 based on characteristics or appearance, based on what old-fashioned criminals used to do. We now acknowledge in 2020 that criminals aren't the same, and we have technologies like metal detectors and radios and photographs, literally photographs. This was laws written before we had radios in cars, so that cops couldn't call each other in cars. So we have laws.
They didn't have TVs yet.
Well, of course, yeah, exactly. So there was nothing. We acknowledge that the NFA is pointless. There's no way that they can suggest that any of the garbage in the 68 still needs to exist. Yeah. So that it crumbles all of it.
Yeah, and I always call the 68 the Keep Guns Out of Poor People's Hand Act, because that's basically what, with the whole Saturday Night Special thing. Who buys low-priced basic guns are people who live in those low income areas who want protection. And yeah, so they're used in crime, but you're denying people who have that's all they can afford, the ability to get those firearms. It's an ignorant, racist, basically, or whatever angle you want to come with it. It's yeah, it's nothing comes. I don't. Nothing good comes out of any of those things. And off top of my looking what we were talking about earlier, the idea for the brace came out in 2012. They introduced it in 2013.
Okay, that makes sense because I know they were talking about it, and then it came out because they were talking about it for a while, and then they're like, "Oh no, you can have it. That's cool." And then everybody was like, "Oh snap!"
Yeah,
And then SHOT Show was coming.
everyone
So
had the same idea once when they saw it.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Okay, we got SHOT Show coming," but then fucking Sandy Hook. So that's why nobody. I don't remember at least some sort of a big introduction of the brace. It was just sort of on the scene, and then of course, 2 years later, I guess I think it was 15, that the day before SHOT Show, or the Friday before SHOT Show, they came out and said, "Oh, you know what? You can't shoulder that thing anymore." So it would have taken a year or so before, they wouldn't have said you can't shoulder it immediately after putting it out. So it did take a little time.
Yeah.
So that
March 2014 was the ATF response, was saying that that if you shot it from the shoulder, it could be reclassified as an SBR.
Well, that's when they were thinking about it, but it was in January, whatever, that they sent out a memorandum like on 5 o'clock on a Friday, the Friday before SHOT Show was the time when they said, "Okay, we've decided you cannot shoulder it. Shouldering it is a felony." I just remember I just happened to be live when they literally were live and the thing came out and everybody was like, "What?" And we all reacted to it like live as it's happening. And it was completely staged because they only send that shit out on a Friday.
Yeah, Friday night, so that way no one has any way to put it out until Monday or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but this was the Friday before SHOT, so they knew everybody was en route or with that in their head and not able to react to it at all. But doom on them, because all it did is give us all a rally cry.
Yeah.
That year at SHOT Show was it wasn't the first, but it was one of the years that the ATF got quite a bit of attention at their booth.
And that's one of the things, like I said, that we got a rally cry. Remember when they wanted to do the green tip ban, and like 80,000 people sent in comments, if we could just do that for just anything else except just cheap ammo.
Well, it would have been nice if we did it for the sprays.
For the what?
For the brace. Well, we didn't do it just for the cheap ammo. We did it because it was strong. Well, I mean, I'm sure some people did it for the inexpensive ammo, but most people, people I know, were doing it because of the principle. Well, no, not the principle, but the line it went over. If you would have allowed that, then you can allow any. And that was the thing that they were breaking the rules. They were saying
they were saying it was armor piercing, and clearly it was not.
You're changing it. So that meant if they're changing it for that, then they could change it for anything. So that was a reinterpretation or actually literally just ignoring the law.
And they did with the Russian ammo, with the 545. Technically, that doesn't meet the armor piercing definitions, but they banned it from import anyways.
No, well, it did because the definition is percentage of metal, not the quality of the metal or the usefulness of the metal. So they technically did do it, but the same law that says that has a exclusionary thing that says you can never. None of these laws apply to 855, so that we can still get our ammo from overseas if we ever needed it. So the M855 issue was them saying we want to close that quote unquote loophole. We want to close that portion of the importation laws that say, except for M855.
Maybe I thought that the 7 and 6 didn't meet it, but because
I
someone
mean, it
wanted to
does.
use
I mean,
it,
in real life, it does not. But the law says like it has to be. It can't be more than 10% a
yeah,
different
a
metal.
certain weight, yeah,
But that's what it is. It meets it like
just
what's the
barely,
word? Metallurgically, it meets it, but effectively, it's not. You know, it's not a.
right,
It's not intended to be a armor piercing round. It's just two different types of metal.
right,
It's just that they've interpreted that as armor piercing. So that was one of those like it's wrong and it's in misinterpretation to fucking infringe. But what can you do about it because they technically did it right? You really need to change the law back to say this isn't a valid qualification for you to do your bullshit.
yeah,
And that's again, you're right. We need to stand up because the only thing you can do or the best thing to do, I think, for that, since that's the executive branch doing an executive decision, is to bitch at the executive branch, who will then say, quit it. And then it's
Yeah.
over. You don't have to make a law or nothing. You just have to tell them to quit it. Because it's not a law that did it. They just are
yeah, it's interpretation.
do something, yeah.
Yep, and
And now if they don't do it, then you go to the other side and you start making a law that says, guess what, motherfuckers, you can't do that. And then create the law and then shove it at them and then hold them accountable to the law you just made. But that's a lot of work.
and like you were saying about the woman, I hope, and again, I'm going to try and support them as best I can, but you know, obviously all the politicians who are anti-gun use the current situation and twist and try to make it when it's clear that most of the country who went, you know, or all the people who went out and new gun owners have basically told the government, we need these guns. We have to, this is an issue that, you know, this is, have basically with all their purchases kind of spoke at once and say, we support, you know, we need the guns. There's no reason for you to go the other way. But then of course the anti-guns are just using random, you know, they're going to try and change shit the other way anyways. And
Well, certainly, but they've, like you say, but first by purchasing the guns, they have to acknowledge, well, they don't have to acknowledge it, but it's obvious that a bunch of people made a decision, like you say, to buy a gun or whatever. But they didn't, it's not like a bunch of people in the 70s bought a gun and then it went in their closet. And then if someone asked them, they'd say they owned a gun, but they never think about it again because it's
Right.
just something they own. Instead, nowadays, I suspect more of them are going to go to the,
they're going to go training.
or they're going to go to their store that they bought it at, or go to the range, and they're going to see that bullet, that cock board, or what they call it, cork board, you know, with all the different business
Yep.
cards on it,
Yep.
or some sort of stack of business cards, and they're going to find somebody that they like, or they're going to go online and find somebody, and maybe even go to two different things. But more often, you know, maybe go to one of these free things or find somebody, maybe watch some online stuff, but whatever. They're gonna learn more than anybody else in time ever learned when they just bought a gun.
Yeah.
Like I can't even imagine how many people throughout time have bought a gun because they were concerned about something. But how many of them had an internet
Yeah.
full of videos by like, think of all the
Everybody.
people that are putting out good videos, you know, for them to find. Like there's
Yeah.
just a shit ton of them.
No, I like you said in the 70s, somebody bought a gun, a 38 special or 27. They loaded it, they put it in the dresser, and they never looked at it again.
Maybe they watched a movie, right? Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm working now because I seen it on Starsky and Hutch or whatever. So
Yeah.
now I'm a master.
Dirty
Because
Harry.
and they're allowed to do that. I'm not even talking shit.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I
But
have several
I'm just saying
guns.
now
Because
there's more.
I have several guns because I saw them on a movie. So yeah,
But I'm just saying they got more now. So that's what I'm thinking. Is what you'll end up with is people that bought a gun because they felt like it and they could, and they've then, what's the word, like invested more into it, I guess. You know, they
Yeah.
put more time into it. So yeah, whenever it comes time for some dumbass politician to start saying all gun owners are blah, 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 blah,
racist or
they can
evil.
start going, because I'm a gun owner and I'm not, whatever. So
And all these people made these purchases not under duress, but under the realization that they may have to use this for only one thing. And that is, they weren't. The majority of people didn't go buy guns to go duck hunting or to go skeet or whatever. They bought it because they saw what's going on. Say, I may have to defend my family, and that's not just a simple purchase you make like that.
that's true. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm curious and I just bought this, but it turns out I like pottery better, so I don't care about my gun
Right.
anymore. Or like, I'm a fear of my life because somebody's beating the crap out of me after work every day. It's not that either.
Yeah.
This is, I'm a little bit concerned. I am buying something. It's not like I want to go out hunting humans like Nancy
Yeah.
Pelosi. And instead, you're like, okay, I'm going to buy something to help me or help my defend myself. And then, when you buy it with that in mind, you then have to I mean, I guess it's possible for them to put some kind of block, but you'd expect them to then realize other people might be buying it to not murder people too.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like maybe I am indicative of the other people and I'm not unique. Maybe I'm not the only one who doesn't buy these kinds of murder.
And especially someone, like, let's say, talking about the woman again, a single woman who's at home with 2 kids, and she's looking at her 2 kids, and she sees a video on, of all this stuff happening, of someone getting beat with a skateboard because they got pulled out of their car on the way to the daycare, whatever. She's making a huge decision, and she went to a gun store and she said, that's a huge hurt, especially someone who has no experience, or maybe he was generally like anti-gun before. That's a huge step to take.
Significant for sure. I don't know, if you don't put much weight in it, you might not think about it. Like, oh, I'm going to go buy a gun. I also need to buy some bread, so I'm going to buy both of those, and I'll be home before the show starts.
Right.
But I'm thinking too, we're all thinking about this the way that we think about it.
Yeah.
That's not the way that somebody who's new. So somebody probably nowadays is like, I think I might buy a gun. And you know what they're going to do? They're not going to go to the gun shop first. They're going to Google, right? And they're going to be completely aware of what they want. And then they're going to go to the store and either get the reality of like, oh, I can't buy exactly what I want, or they're going to buy exactly what they want and they're going to come home with it. So already confident. Like I can't even think I'm in the, what do you call it? Like I'm not even in the know anymore. Because the last time I hung out at a gun shop was like 4 years ago. And the people that were walking into the gun shop back then were in Arizona, in Tucson. So it's not like we're even, if I was over by the university or something, maybe I'd expect more people to be online, but I'm not. So, people that came into the gun shop were like, hey, I need a gun that shoots, 9 bullets, or, they were just coming in from all over the place, where nowadays there's no reason to believe people don't come in with like a pretty decent knowledge of guns, even though they're brand new or novices or what. Look at some of the people that show up in the chats. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm buying my first gun.
Yep. Like you said, the first thing they do when they decide they're going to do that is they're going to get on Google and they're going to hit YouTube first, because they're going to see video. They'll rather see a video. And there's a lot of good people out there putting really good stuff. It's free. It gives them knowledge. They get review. That's a path that's awesome. That my family was always into shooting. So, but like people of my age, I'm 46, and others like that didn't have an internet until the internet to me came when I was 13 or 14. And didn't have anything like we have today. No YouTube, nothing like that. You wanted to learn something special, you had to go to the library. So.
Well, and that meant that somebody had to write a book about it, and then they had to write enough books that your library bought one, and then your library had to buy one, and then it had to still be there. Like, because sometimes a good book would get stolen right away and never be at the library, even though you technically had one. And that, like, let's say it's a good book and somebody steals it. Now, a month later, they figure out that the guy didn't return it.
Bring it back.
And then, somebody steals the next one. So it's like, they only ever are at the lot. Like some of the fiction, like some of the cool, like choose your own adventure books and stuff, people would just steal those because there was no reason to give it back, because I don't remember if there was consequences even. It was like 50 cents if you never gave the book back, because they kind of wanted you to have books. That was the trick. They really didn't care if you ever gave the book back. But the problem was, like the library is a dumbass and they're only going to buy one at a time. So because somebody keeps stealing it, you never even see it. So like, even if it was possible to find a book about what you wanted, it wasn't exactly accessible.
And then in the back of the magazine, the gun magazines, which again, when I was young, I used to read, I used to buy all that. They had the specialized collector's books, which had very little on training, if at all. They were just references. And then if you went to the gun shop, all they had was the magazines, and so you had really limited access to like really information that matters.
But it wasn't like we were all sitting around going, dang, I wish we had the internet, or I wish we had more amount of information. We just had no information about nothing, and we just lived our lives not knowing about a lot of shit. It's just that now we kind of have the ability to know about all the stuff we don't know about.
We didn't know what we didn't have.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, okay, you know, this is what's at the gun shop. You didn't think about what was at every other gun shop. You thought about what was at your gun shop.
Yeah, I was lucky. My mom was a librarian, and she worked at like the big libraries, Houston Public Library, stuff like that. And if I wanted a book that I had heard of, you know, that I could usually get, you know, my mom would get the library to get something, or she'd find it and she'd borrow it from other libraries. It was pretty cool. So I had that little thing, but again, I still did not know what I didn't know, what I was missing, what the potential for all that stuff to be out there, because it just didn't exist for me. I had a library. That was my only advantage. My mom worked at the library, and a big one. So that was probably the only advantage. And of course, my family was already into guns since I was a kid. So, you know, before my dad's dad, you know, it was a thing. So had that advantage as probably the only, you know, advantage I had of just to being exposed to him. But all these people now, like you said, they have all the information they need available in just 2 seconds.
Although, now that you were saying that, I bet you it's probably frustrating at a gun shop, because you're still going to get people that don't know shit, and they're just like, oh, I need scissors and a gun today.
Yep.
And they're walking in. So now it's like novice, person who, you know, thinks he's an expert, and then novice, and then actual expert, and then novice. You know, it's probably pretty tough to judge people anymore, because back then you could tell right when they open the door, okay, I'm gonna have to work, or I'm just going to sit here and let them decide what they want.
Yeah, the gun stores that sell new stuff, like we have one here that I live right outside of Oklahoma City right now, and it's called H&H Shooting Sports. I think you've been there. I think you stopped there on your tour.
H&H is the number one. That's the largest indoor shooting range in the country. They don't even act like it. They don't even brag about it.
You know what? I didn't even know that. And I go there all the time.
They know it. Yeah. I don't think they know it. There's all these I started typing in shooting ranges, and there's all these ranges on the east side. Did I close that shit already? I guess I closed it. All right, I can open it again. There's I know exactly where you're at now.
Yeah. I live.
Although they're probably closed because of all the bullshit right now.
No, they're open. I was there the other day picking up a gun. The only usually the place I go there is if they have something I want specifically, you know, that I want, and I have a guy that works for me because I buy a lot of guns. But the other places I go regularly are pawn shops, because they have the cut stuff. You know, I like the old stuff, whatever, blah blah blah. And I get my transfers there because they only cost $10. And so that's basically the only place I go, H&H, to pick up something that they have that I want, or I hit the pawn shops because they have the cool stuff I want to look for. And for the most part, those two places are pretty good with people, but I've been to pretty bad ones. And 90,000 square feet. Wow.
I mean, that's the store, but I'm sure these other ones are doing the same thing, like Pizza Factory. So Shooter's World thinks it's so good over in Florida, and they've got 3 locations. One of them's like, the big one is 74. They got a 60 and a 5 and a 50. So they have 3 locations that are all huge. So there's all together, they claim that they've got like 170,000 square feet, but that's 3 locations.
That's three stores, yeah.
Yeah. And they're all, but the big one is the biggest besides H&H, which is the thing is, what sucks is, I don't know, I guess it's a dilemma for them, because they can say that they're the largest, technically, if they wanted to. But they also have 2 of the other ones that are largest. So they say all 3 and they blow everybody away, but you also know that they're faking it. Anyway, so they've got a weird dilemma that they've created for themselves.
There's another place called
Countryland of Maryland, which is huge. And I thought it was like hands down the biggest thing by looking at pictures of it. And especially when you consider the Shooter's World is fake because it's 3. but yeah, nowhere near as big as the 90,000. So you've been in it. I've walked in H and H. H and H is not fooling around. They're not even lying with that. There's 27 ranges or something. It's insane.
And just I don't know when you were there last, but they added bow ranges. They have ranges just for air rifles. I think those have been there for a while. Yeah, but they added bow ranges, and there's another place here called Wilshire. It's newer, and they have 100-yard indoor range, which is I haven't shot at it, but it's 100 yards. Which is cool.
I featured Copper Star. They're not big or nothing. They're just a regular size. I mean, they're a large shop, but they're just normal size. They're not like a country club. These are all country clubs, basically.
Yeah.
But Copper Star has the only 100-yard one in Arizona, which is pretty big. But shoot this country one in Rhode Island. The range at the preserve in Rhode Island has like a 300 or a 200. So I think it's their claim to fame is they're the longest range, but their shop is only 50,000. So anyway, yeah, the H&H is a really cool shop, and I mean I'm gonna put this out there and we'll see, but I think they should start putting a claim to fame that they're the biggest indoor range. And what's cool is these other ones, Shooters World. It's not really a country club. It is, though, even though it's a cheesy one. But the Country Club of Maryland and the Colonial Shooting Academy, I can't use my mouse on this as easy as before. But these other ones that are fancy are like the range at Austin. Like, those aren't fucking around. Those are like golf course fancy. Like, they're deluxe fancy. Yeah. They're not as big. They're really expensive and fancy.
That Wilshire place has a bar, a restaurant, a lounge that's private for you have to you join like a country club kind of thing.
Well, but the thing is, H&H is bigger than all them, but it's a normal store. It's just a huge normal store, but it's like it's not really like a Walmart where it's fake and it's like all corporate. It's still regular people that work there. It's just that it's massive. But they've got the what do they call it there? The Roadkill Inn or something. But anyway, they've got their own grill and probably
I forget what they call it.
It's just that it's a regular restaurant, and it's not like you got to sit down and wear a tie and get fucking waited up.
It's kind of like a diner, and they have burgers and French fries.
Like a place you eat when you go out for the afternoon, not like I want to go spend more than I'm going to spend all month on food.
I was there last Saturday. I was there Saturday picking up a gun, and even obviously they're picked clean on a lot of stuff, but the place was still packed. And they're like a lot of the big gun shops. Their prices are higher, than what you find online or some other place like that. But they always, not counting now, but before, they always have a lot of stock. They have a good range if you shoot there, and they have everything you need. It's pretty damn convenient, for being there. And it's not a country club either.
Well, that's the thing. It's an experience. You can go in there and just spend 2 hours fucking around, experiencing guns, swimming in them, and fiddling with them. They're not all hidden either. You can fiddle with most of them. And then, like you say, also just go shoot there. They must have all kinds of competitions. Yeah. There's too many ranges and stuff. They could be doing stuff.
They have classes. They have reloading classes. They have all kinds of stuff there. And also the thing I noticed Saturday when I was there, they rent guns like all these places do. They had usually when I see them, the rent line, it's got 5 or 10 people in it at the most. There was probably 30 people waiting in line to rent guns, and it was just packed. And I'm assuming most people that most, not always, but most are people who are new who are trying to decide what they're gonna try out.
Yeah, it's hot out probably, so it's better to go indoors than outdoors. But yeah, that's also an indication that many people decided to go do that right now.
Yep. But I like that place. My complaint with it is that because it is like one of the one. It's we have Bass Pro and Cabela's and also like that, but their prices are a little high, and of course when you buy local, it's taxes and all that. But Yes, I like it. In fact, I just picked up that. I just posted it on my Instagram. That Ruger 5.7. That's what I picked up. I bought it before the whole panic started, so I didn't have to pay much. But now the prices everyone gone crazy. But and they don't gouge over there either. But oops, hold on just a second. Nope. I better get going. So I think my kids calling me. I think we woke up.
Right on. Well, I was about to say, so we've been chatting for a few hours.
Yeah. Nice talking to you, man. I'll try to make it on when I can.
Yeah, right on. You're always welcome.
And have a good night.
Yep.
All right, man. See you.
Thanks for jumping in. I'll just tell everybody, there's only a couple of people listening, that we always do the chats every weeknight, and it's all about having a conversation.